Hello everyone. I mentioned in my previous video that I wanted to do a video about the differences between men and women, particularly with regard to dating. So here I am to do exactly that. And you know what? I'm probably going to turn the light on because otherwise I'm not going to be very well lit. I'm making a video during the daytime for once. You can see there's daylight coming through the window, but because it's kind of behind me, it's not good lighting for a video like this. I know it's very wasteful to keep a light running during the daytime, but I think it's a fairly low energy light, so hopefully the energy consumption will be justifiable. I don't really care about lighting that much. I mean, when I watch videos like this, I personally don't really care too much about lighting. I just care about what the person says. I don't really care about the visuals that much. But I am aware that people who watch these videos like to see me talk for whatever reason, so I guess having me be a bit better lit is probably a good idea. I usually make these videos when I have time, which is part of why I usually make them during the nighttime, but today is a holiday, and so I'm not at work, and that gives me an opportunity to make this video. Other people are probably out celebrating, but I'm here at home making a video talking about human psychology and stuff like that, which probably says a lot about why some of the things are the way that I'm going to describe them. Before I begin, I guess I should put in a sort of disclaimer that obviously not all men are the same and not all women are the same. You know, I'm gonna use somewhat stereotypical language. A lot of people don't like gender norms, and I understand why. I mean, obviously, yes, very obviously, not all men are the same, not all women are the same. And people will be very quick to point out that I'm maybe using some kind of gender normative language or whatever, and you know that you should see people as individuals and not describe them according to their gender, whatever. That's true, of course. I mean, yeah, each person is different. I realize that every individual is an individual and they have individual differences between themselves, but I think still that there are patterns that you can observe. You know, if you observe people for a long time, you will start to notice patterns. And even if those patterns aren't true for 100% of people, I think they're true enough for enough people that you can kind of generalize about human beings in general. So I want to apologize in advance if some of my statements come across as very sort of negative and bitter. I'm going to talk a bit about my personal history, and I have had some negative experiences in my past, as I guess most people have. Yeah, and in some cases, I have not been very able to let go of that past, and so yes, perhaps I do still feel kind of bitter about some of the things that happened, and I hope that my conclusions and statements here will not be perceived as misogynistic. I don't hate women, at least I don't think that I do. I don't mean to suggest that there is something wrong with women or that that women are somehow not as good as men, that men are somehow better than women. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I think it's fair to say that men and women are different from each other. Men are different from women, and that's what I wanted to express with this video. Or actually probably videos, plural, because I already anticipate that this video will be extremely long because I already know that I have a lot to say that I want to talk about. So I'll probably divide this video into several parts. So you'll see me reaching for the camera a few times, because what I'll probably do is I'll pause the video and then restart the video, because my camera then makes that into a separate video file, and then it's easy to just upload each video file as one video on YouTube rather than having to edit, otherwise I'd probably have to edit the video somehow, but it's easy to just hit the button on the camera and then it starts a new video file, and that's the easiest thing to do, so I'll probably do that a few times. You may also notice me kind of looking off to the side. When I make these videos, I don't make a script. I don't just read off a script because I don't think that's very interesting. I think it's much more interesting to see a person kind of form their ideas kind of somewhat spontaneously. So I'm not just reading off a script, but I do have some notes because I don't want to miss anything. So I'm kind of checking my notes just to make sure that I don't miss anything that I want to mention. So you will see me kind of glancing off at my computer sometimes like that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not just reading a script, but I am reading notes. And just my notes for this video, just my notes, not even like a script, but just my notes for this video are about 80 kilobytes long. They're literally like the length of a small book. So I'm probably going to be here for a while, but I'm doing this because I have a message which I think is important and I want to communicate it. So that's why I'm here. I guess that's you know what, just before I begin, I noticed on a video that I made in the past that some cell phone noise was apparent, you know, that kind of sound that you hear when a mobile phone is present. So I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode because I'm not using it today anyway. I don't personally own a mobile phone because I have no use for one. I don't talk to people. I have no need for one. If I want to get onto the internet, I do that with my computer, not with a phone. But I have my work phone, and I keep it, you know, I just keep it around in case somebody from work calls me. But since today's a holiday, I put my phone on airplane mode so that it hopefully will not transmit anything that creates that sort of audio glitch in the audio on this video. So, all right, here we go. Differences between men and women in dating. I think that the basic principle, like the kind of core principle of everything that I'm about to say, is that men want to be with women, but women don't want to be with men. That's kind of the long and the short of it. And I know people will immediately say, no, that's not true, that can't be true. So I'm going to go into more detail and try to kind of explain what I mean. But generally speaking, men want women, women don't want men. And my claim is that this difference is biological. It's not just something that's taught to us culturally. People always say the differences between men and women are social constructs. You know, gender is just a social construct. There's no real difference. I don't believe that that's true. With all due respect, I'm not trying to attack anyone. I don't hate anyone. I don't hate people who have those views, so don't take this as some kind of hate attack on any group. But I do believe that there are biological differences between men and women. And I don't just mean physical differences. I mean, people talk about a man has a penis, a woman has a vagina. I don't just mean genitalia. I don't just mean, you know, physical things about the body. I mean differences in how they think, differences in how they mentally, psychologically, emotionally approach life and react to different things in life. That's my claim, that there are actual biological differences between men and women that are psychological, not just physical. Not talking about what genitals you have, what's between your legs. That's something different. I'm not talking about that. So the principle is basically men want to be with women and women don't usually want to be with men. You see this in dating sites. That's a very strong example, I think. If you're on a dating site, you can very clearly see the difference. Men will send out dozens, sometimes hundreds of messages to women. And so if you're a woman on a dating site, you probably get hundreds of messages. But a man will be lucky to get one single message. I was on dating sites for a while, and most days I would not get a single message. Whereas most women, unless the woman really has something very, very non-attractive about her, most women will get hundreds of messages constantly. So you see that very clearly. And I think you can sort of say as a principle, women date whom they want, men date whom they can, A man has to basically date whoever will decide to be with him, but a woman can choose whom she wants to be with. And you see this in the animal kingdom. If you look at the animal world, you know, men or males usually try to approach a female. Females don't really have to do much. Females just kind of wait around, and by virtue of their being female, males will come to them, and males will, strut around, and they'll try to make themselves look big and make themselves look appealing. This whole thing. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So males will try to impress a female, and the most impressive one is usually selected by the female, and she will then mate with that one. And so that's kind of how it works. Women date whom they choose. Women can choose whom they want to date. And if a woman really wants to be with a man, she usually will be able to in the end, because if a woman persistently tries to come on to a man and tries to convince him to be with her, he will probably, in the end, agree to start something with her. The inverse is not true. If a man really wants to be with a woman, the woman will probably reject him. If it gets really bad, she might get a restraining order against him or something like that. So a man can't really be with whom he wants to be. A man just has to be with whoever will be with him. But women can choose whom they want to be, if in fact they want to be with anyone. But in most cases, women don't want to be with any man because women don't really love men. Again, that's my claim. I know people will say that I'm wrong, but hear me out. Before you jump to conclusions, at least please listen to what I have to say. And I'm going to say a lot. I know this will be a lot to digest for anyone, but I'm going to say what I have to say on the matter. So now, a lot of people will say, okay, this is true for animals. Yeah, this is true for animal species, but humans are different. Yes, in the animal kingdom, men try to huff themselves up and show that they're, very impressive and strong, and, but humans are different. Humans don't operate that way. Well, yeah, humans don't operate that way. Humans have logic and reason and intelligence, and they can think in ways that go beyond this kind of primitive animal logic. Yes, humans can think and act differently from animals, but there is still sort of a biological basis for love, because love is not something that happens logically. Love is not something that you can decide upon using some kind of logical process. You do not say, I love that person because of some reason. It's just how you feel. And, people will sometimes say, I love that person because I like the color of their eyes, or I like their smile or something like that. But that's not really it. You can't really, if you love a person just for those reasons, then I don't think it's really love. If you really love someone, it's something that you can't really explain. Maybe you can kind of give some reasons for it, but fundamentally love is a feeling. It's something that you feel emotionally, viscerally. It is not something that you can justify or explain using logic. It does not happen for logical, rational reasons. So even if you're an intelligent and rational person who usually thinks with logic, that kind of reasonable logic is not something that can lead you to love. It is not what will decide whom you fall in love with, because the basis of love is biological. And so it has sort of roots in what I described in animals, this sort of males trying to pursue a female, and females just kind of sitting around and waiting for a man to show up or a male to show up, and they'll just pick whichever male they like the best. It doesn't always work that way in humans, but it tends to work that way in humans. And even when it doesn't go exactly that way, there is still a sort of a biological tendency that humans have to do that. Now, again, I want to emphasize that this is not something people choose. People don't choose to feel this way. People can choose how they behave, but they behave that way because that's how they feel. Men pursue women because they want to be with a woman. They can certainly choose not to. A man can certainly choose to not be with a woman. Some of them do. Some men say, I prefer to be alone, I prefer to be celibate. Even if I like women, even if I like dating women, I prefer to be on my own. Okay, you can choose that. You can make the rational decision to make that lifestyle choice, and maybe you have valid reasons for that. Probably you have, if you make a decision like that, then probably you have reasons for that choice. But still, there tends to be, again, in general, there is this feeling that a man wants to be with a woman. And I am also like that. I, as a heterosexual male, experience an emotional an emotional desire to be with a woman. It's not something I chose. I did not choose to feel that way, and a person cannot choose to feel a certain way or not feel a certain way. So, as far as human dating goes, I think the most common kind of pattern which we probably see in popular media, like, movies, TV shows, often music, and also in real life, not only in media like TV, but also in our real lives, what we very often see is the sort of basic model of a man who just wants sex. So the typical sort of thing that happens is a man feels sexually attracted to a woman. He wants to have sex with the woman. He approaches the woman. He wants sex with her. Maybe they have sex, maybe they don't. If the woman says yes, they'll have sex. If she says no, they won't have sex unless he rapes her, which hopefully doesn't happen most of the time. And that's it. That's sort of the archetypical model of where dating starts from. A man feels horny, he feels sexually aroused or attracted, and a woman says yes or no. And her yes or no will decide what happens after that. And if a woman says no, which often happens, the man will try to convince her. He won't just say, oh, okay, then, well, all right, have a nice day. He'll, a lot of men will do anything to convince a woman to have sex with him. So men will lie. They'll try to present themselves as someone or something that they're not. They'll try to change their behavior. They'll try to make up stories about themselves if it gives them a chance to have sex with a woman. So there's this sort of common idea, this sort of common cultural idea that we carry, that men are horny, men just want sex, and women want something more. Women want real love. Women want true love. Women don't just want sex. I don't think that's true. Let me tell you very clearly, I believe that idea is wrong. Certainly, it is often the case that men just want sex. Certainly, there are a lot of horny men who just want sex and nothing more. They just want, no strings attached sex. They want like a one-night stand. They want to sleep with a woman, and then in the morning they want to leave and never see her again. Sure, that happens. There are men like that. But as far as love goes, if love happens, I think men are the ones that love women. If, we're not talking about sex, we're talking about true love, like not just a one-night stand, but like a really devoted relationship where people actually will share their lives together, true love, a long-term committed relationship. I think that is something that men are more likely to want with women, and women generally do not want that with men. Women often say that they want love with men, but they really don't. And I'm going to qualify that by saying, I'm not necessarily saying that women are lying. Maybe in some cases they are. I'm sure, some people lie sometimes. It happens. But I'm not necessarily saying that women are lying when they say they want love. I think in many cases women think they want love, but they don't know what they really want. Now, I realize this is very presumptuous. I understand that as a man, I am a man. I identify as a man. And I think most people would identify me as a man as well. I realize it is very presumptuous for me as a man to say, I know what women want. Women don't know what they want. Women say this and that, but they don't know what they want. I know what women really want. I realize that that's presumptuous. I realize that that may be offensive and audacious to some people. If people find that offensive, then I'm sorry, but it's my honest opinion. And what I'm saying here is my honest personal opinion on these matters. If you don't like my opinion, you are welcome to disagree with me. You can, I will put this video on YouTube, so you can post comments with your opinions. You can say why you disagree with me. You can put your opinions on the matter. I will try to read the opinions that people give to me. But this is my opinion, that in many cases, women don't know. I shouldn't even say women, because it's true for men as well. It's true for men as well, isn't it? I mean, really, people, not only men and women, not only men or women, but people in general often don't know what they want. They'll often say they want something, but if they get it, then they'll say, oh, I'm not satisfied. I didn't really want it after all. So it happens. So, if that makes it more fair, then I'm happy to say, yeah, men also often want something or think they want something and then realize later they didn't really want it, or they didn't want it for very long. So it happens. So there's a precedent for this. I mean, I'm not just talking about things that happen now in our current sort of 21st century modern reality. Human history has a long history going back thousands of years. You can read history about how people lived in ancient Greece, or ancient Rome, or even before that, and you'll see, or in more recent times, like in the Middle Ages, or even even the early modern era, like 19th century, early 20th century kind of stuff, we can see how human beings lived, and how human values have changed over the course of time. But I think that we're seeing quite recently, in quite recent human history now, a very significant change, a very significant shift in how women live and how women behave. Because a lot more women now are choosing to stay single. There have always been, all throughout recorded human history, going back thousands of years, there have always been women who chose to stay single. A woman could do that. I mean, in most cases, a woman could choose to remain unmarried, single, live by herself, or live with her, maybe her siblings or whatever, but not with, with a man, like not with a husband or something like that. Women could choose to do that. But I think historically that was seen as kind of an aberration, that was sort of seen as not typical. The typical sort of model of a person's life, for both men and women, is that once you grow up, you find a partner, you get married, you have a spouse, and then you have children with them. That's sort of the typical sort of classical, traditional thing that people are supposed to do when they grow up. But today, we live in a very different world. Feminism has changed the world a lot. And I'm not going to comment on whether feminism is good or bad. I'm not saying that feminism is good or bad. I mean, it has good things about it, it has maybe not so good things about it. But I'm not here to talk about feminism. I'm not here to praise or bash feminism. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It is what it is. It is something that we live with because it is something significant in our 21st century modern sort of world. And I think what feminism is doing, I think what a very significant effect that feminism is having is that we can start to see what women are really like. Because historically, women often had to get married. Women had to marry a man because it was difficult for a woman to make a living otherwise. There weren't a lot of career or job opportunities for women to make a living for themselves. So if a woman wanted to survive, she probably had to marry a man just because that was kind of the only way that a woman could really survive in much of human history. Well, today we're seeing that women are more independent than they have historically been. Women are often I say often, not always, but women are often able to rely just on themselves. They can have their own jobs, their own careers. They can pay their own way, they can pay for their own costs of living, and design their own lifestyle without being dependent on a man to enable their lifestyle. Which is fine. I'm not saying that's bad. It's not a bad thing that women can do that. But what we're seeing is that women are kind of showing their true natures now. We're seeing what women are really like because, historically, we thought that women wanted to be with men because women would marry men. But now we're realizing, oh, women don't really want to be with men that much. They married men for money. And when women have their own money, they don't want to be with men anymore. So women aren't really how we historically thought that they are. We're realizing that, feminism is allowing us to see women as they really are. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with how women really are. I'm not criticizing women or feminism. I'm just saying that feminism is affording women more personal freedom, the ability to make more personal choices for their own lives, which is great. Not a bad thing. But it also means that we're changing our perceptions of what women are like, because we're seeing that women are different than how they might have historically been perceived by men. And feminism is a global thing. Like, this is something happening all around the world, even in cultures that seem very anti-feminist. I know people who grew up in places like Afghanistan, for example, or other countries or cultures which are very not feminist. Let's say they're very limiting in terms of what they allow women to do. And even in those places, I can tell even in places like that, feminism is still very much valued, at least by women. It's a bit different in Western countries. In Western countries, often even men call themselves feminists. I think in those countries, like, Afghanistan or other places, in that region of the world, it's probably less common that a man would describe himself as a feminist, but women at least are very much aware of what feminism is, and it is something that they value, and it's changing life there as well. It is changing how people live there. It is changing social and cultural values in those countries as well. It's happening a bit more slowly than in the West, but it is happening, and I think that long-term we will see a shift in how women behave in those countries, similar to how it has been in the West, in Western countries. Again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not making any judgments about whether it should be that way or shouldn't be that way. That's a different discussion. I'm just saying that it is that way. Whether it's good or bad is a personal matter. That's, a matter of opinion. Good and bad don't really exist. Like, there's not really anything that's inherently good or bad. There's basically things that people like and people don't like. So I'm not going to judge on whether it's good or bad. I think that some people like it, some people don't like it. But regardless of whether you like it or not, it's, I think, a fact. I think it is a fact that feminism is spreading all around the world and allowing women to be more independent from men. And what's relevant about that for this video is, again, that we're able to see what women are really like. We're not seeing women as men force them to be. We're not seeing women as men perceive them. We're seeing women as they really are in their true natures and what they really do when they're given the freedom to make their own personal life decisions. So, yeah. So feminism is changing the world, and I think that, again, historically, when women wanted to be with men, again, I mentioned money. In most cases, if women wanted to marry a man, it wasn't so much because they really wanted to be with the man himself. It was because they wanted his money, or often power. Power is also attractive. So, people who are heads of state, presidents or prime ministers or whatever, or other people with, power like that in whatever form, that is attractive. And women wanted to be able to take advantage of that money and power because, they would be afforded a certain amount of money and power just by being married to a wealthy, powerful man. And I think that's often still the case today. I think that in general, women, when women want to be with a man, or when women love a man, they like what the man makes possible for them. They like what's enabled in their lives, what's made possible in their lives because of that man, because of that man's presence in the woman's life. But it's not so much that the woman wants to be with the guy himself. And that's kind of the difference. Love is, to me, what is love? I mean, how can you define love? Well, I would say very simply, without making it too complicated, let's say love is the desire to be with someone. It's the desire to share your life with someone. It's the desire to have that person with you when you're doing things in your life. And that alone. It's not about having sex. Often people who are in love will have sex, but sometimes they won't. It's not about money, because theoretically two people who have no money should still be able to love each other, shouldn't be dependent on money, or any other status thing like that. It's not about, whatever. I'm not going to get into a list of what love is not, but for me, love is the emotional desire to be with a person, to share your life and your time and your experiences with that person. That is love. And that's not something that women generally want with men. Or if they do, it's kind of in a friendly way. I think I'll talk more about that later. I think I'll come back to the topic of friends later. But let's say that let's stay on track for now. So historically, a lot of men got this idea that women were very romantic. A lot of men had the idea that a woman would come to them and say, "Oh, I want to marry you, I want to be with you." And men would say, "Wow, she really loves me. Women are so romantic." But it wasn't really that the women were romantic. Women said that because they, again, they wanted to get a cut of the money or power or whatever that man had, because that was the only way for women to really get any kind of status in life, through marriage to a man, or at least some kind of relationship with a man, if not marriage. And so men got the idea that, oh, she really likes me. Women are so desperate to get married. Women are so romantic and so emotional, and they really want love. No, they really didn't. And in most cases, I think they really don't. They wanted love for, frankly, for selfish reasons. Women have always used love, men, as a source of financial stability and social status. So it's difficult to say historically, if you look at the past, again, going back through thousands of years of human history, it's difficult to say how many women really married out of love, out of a sincere desire to be with a man, and how many of them married for more, sort of practical, utilitarian reasons, because women don't usually say why they want to get married. And certainly, if you go back throughout human history, study thousands of years of history, I don't think you'll be able to find reasons why most of those women got married, who, married in history. So it's hard to say. It's hard to get statistics about how it used to be, reasons for why people used to get married. But I think today there's more data available and stuff like that, and we're starting to see patterns emerge. We're starting to see, again, not all women are the same, but we're starting to see patterns in how women behave, and we're starting to notice that women are probably different from how they were historically perceived, how we used to think that women are. So, my experience, not only in my own personal life, but also in what I've seen in other people's lives, is that in general, when real love happens, like the sincere desire to just be with a person just because of who they are, just to be with that person, nothing else. Not you don't want money, you don't want power, you don't want whatever. You just want to be with that person because it's meaningful to you to be with that person. In general, it is men who love women, and not the other way around. Women do not love men that way. Now, going back to what I said before, I said that, there are a lot of men who are horny. There are a lot of men who just want sex and nothing else. Aren't there a lot of men who just want sex without love? Yes, there are. without a doubt, there are a lot of men who only want sex and are not looking for any kind of long-term commitment. Not all men are the same. So again, yes, there are many men who just want sex, who will probably never fall in true love, or if they think they're in love, maybe they, it's not really like what you would think of as love. I don't know. There are different kinds of love. Again, there are different kinds of definitions of things. It's difficult, Love is one of those words that can mean anything you want it to mean because it's just a word. It means whatever people define it to mean, and it means different things to different people. But I will certainly not deny there are lots of men who only want sex and not love. Maybe even most men. I don't have statistics. I don't have like hard numbers. Maybe even most men want just sex, just casual sex and not love. Maybe it's true for most men. But there are men who really want a true lifelong love. Excuse me. I think that if you look at people who really want like a really truly devoted lifelong relationship, like really the serious kind of love where like, we'll do everything together and, share all of our lives together, I think it's usually more men that want that. And if a man wants that, like if a man really truly falls in love, like real love with a woman, then a man will probably remain devoted and emotionally in love with that one woman for the rest of his life. A woman will not. So I'm going to share some personal stories and anecdotes throughout this video. And I know that personal anecdotes are always dangerous because there's a risk of bias, a risk of confirmation bias and other types of bias. There are billions of people in the world, and in your life, in any person's life, you can only meet a very small fraction of those billions of people. So the people that I've met in my life, the people that I've had experiences with, that's a very, very small subset of humanity. It's difficult to make broad, sweeping conclusions about all people based on just one person's experience. So I have to be careful. I think in general you have to be careful with personal experiences because they often give you a wrong idea. If you had a bad experience, you may be quick to jump to conclusions based on one bad experience. So you shouldn't come to any conclusions just based on one experience. But if you see the same pattern repeating again, over and over, if the same thing keeps happening again and again, then you can start to sort of draw some more fundamental conclusions about what human beings are really like. Again, they're still anecdotal. These are still just anecdotal stories. These are still just things that I experienced personally. They're not necessarily fundamentally true for all human beings, but I think that there is some truth to them. I think that there are some observations about them. I'm going to start with a story. My first personal story for this video is about the first woman who came into my life, my mother. Or technically, I guess I came into her life, but okay. I had a mother, as most people do. My mother died in the year 2001, but about a year before she died, she got an email from a guy, and she told me about it. I don't really know all the details, because she didn't tell me all about them, but she told me a few things, so I'll tell you what I know. She got an email from a guy, suddenly, whom she had known 30 years ago. My mother died when she was around her mid-50s, so she must have known this guy, I think, yeah, she knew this guy when she was like a teenager, something like that, or maybe early 20s, so she knew this guy like 30 years ago, or whatever, or even more. And they'd fallen out of contact, and he just found her because he went searching for her name on the internet. He just searched for, he'd been looking for her, and he searched for her name, and finally he found her email address somewhere. I don't even know where he found her, but it doesn't matter. He found her somehow through some internet search, and he sent her an email. And I don't know exactly what they talked about because they wrote in Finnish. My mother was from Finland. She was born in Finland, grew up there, and knew this guy there in Finland. So they wrote in Finnish. I guess I could have translated the text if I really wanted to, but I didn't want to intrude on their privacy that way. Whatever they shared was obviously kind of private. But this guy had known my mother like 30 years ago, 30 years prior to this discussion, and it became pretty apparent that he had very strong feelings for her. And he started telling her about all the experiences that they'd had. He said, "Oh, do you remember 30 years ago, when we went to this place and we did something there, we went to this circus or whatever, or I don't know. He told her about some kind of experiences that they'd had together, and he said, "Oh, do you remember that? I still remember it. It was still, it was so nice. It's still so nice to remember these things." And my mother was like, "No, I don't remember that." So I didn't get, like I said, I didn't get much of the content of their exchange, but it was pretty apparent from what the guy was saying to her that he still had very strong feelings for my mother after 30 years. And all this time, he had been thinking about her, wanting to get back together with her, and he was really excited now because he finally was able to contact her after all this time. And my mother, for her part, was just kind of, she was a bit bewildered by it. She was kind of like, you could say she was nonplussed by it. She was kind of confused by it, not sure what to make of it. And she was like, "Yeah, he just keeps writing to me and telling me all these things." And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, okay, thanks for getting in touch. Nice to hear from you again. But she barely remembered him. I mean, she remembered him. He was, I guess, some childhood friend of hers whom they'd known in school or whatever. So okay, so she remembered him. I mean, she remembered that they had known each other back then. But she had no memories of these experiences, and obviously they were all much more meaningful for him than they had been for her. And he had been living with all these memories and all these things for decades, wanting to get back with her for all this time. This story does not have a happy ending. As I said, this started happening about 1 year before my mother died. I knew about what was going on again, I don't know all the details, but I knew that they had been exchanging these emails. I thought about telling the guy. I thought about logging into my mother's email and just sending him a short message just to tell him that she had passed away. I don't speak Finnish. Again, they spoke in Finnish with each other, so I don't speak Finnish, but I assume the guy probably knew at least enough English to be able to understand. So I thought about sending him an email just to let him know what had happened. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I thought maybe it would be better for him if she just disappeared, and then he could always just kind of imagine whatever he wanted to imagine. From what I know now, being the person that I am now, today, if this happened today, I would have sent him a short email to let him know what happened, because I think that it's less painful to know the truth than to always wonder what happened, to always wonder, why did this happen? Why did she just disappear? To be fair, I think he probably knows, because if you Google my mother's name, there is an online obituary stating that she died with her date of death. So if he had been so diligently Googling my mother's name, then he must know. He must have seen her obituary, and he must know what happened to her. But I do regret not telling him, but oh well. I don't have his email address anymore, so I couldn't reach out to him even if I wanted to. I don't even remember his name. Do I even remember his name? Maybe if I searched my memory banks for a while, I might come up with his name, but I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. So I just remember there was this guy. I just remember what I've said to you. I don't remember any other details. So anyway, but my point here, so that's the story. But my point here is, if you have a person who's that obsessed, If you have a person who, after 30 years, is still hopelessly in love with someone, still, carries a torch for that person, as they say, still desperately hopes that someday they might be together with that person again, how often is that person a man? And how often is that person a woman? And I mean a true story. There might be fictional stories. There might be movies and stories, novels, whatever, where a woman does something like that. But let's talk about real life, because fictional stories often give you a wrong idea. Fictional stories very often have wrong, they give a wrong idea about human behavior. When was the last time you heard about a real story where a woman stayed in love with a man for that long and was hoping for that long to get together with him? I would say in the vast majority of cases when that happens, it's a man who stays in love like that, not a woman. Because women usually forget about love quickly. Women usually forget about men quickly. Women may develop attraction to men. I'm not saying that women never feel attracted to men. They certainly do. But women would generally not carry on an obsession that long, for that long a period of time. Men would. That's the difference, or that's one big difference between men and women. That's what I want to kind of impart here. That is one big, big difference between men and women. And, if you hear people talk about their past relationships, very often men will say, I'm really sorry that I lost my girlfriend. I really miss that woman that I was with back then. We had such a good thing together. I really very much miss my girlfriend. Even when they die, like even on, when they're dying, like men on their deathbeds will often say, I really regret that I didn't go out with that woman that I was attracted to. I really regret that I lost that woman that I was with. Women don't. Women don't have those kinds of regrets. When women die, women are actually more likely to say, I regret that I wasted my time with that guy. I really regret that I wasted so much of my life with that guy. I wish that I hadn't done that. Women are more likely to regret that they were with men. Men are likely to regret that they lost women. It's a big difference between men and women. Women certainly may develop attraction to men, but they'll usually get over it quickly. But if a person carries on a lifelong, obsessive, hopeless devotion to a person like that, it's usually a man. There are exceptions. I'm sure that you can find women who did something like that, but in most cases it will be a man. Generally speaking, that's how men love, not how women love. Women don't do that. Women don't stay in love for years. And that's the difference between men and women. A man can stay in love his whole life. A man can stay in love with a woman whom he hasn't even had any contact with for 30 years. A woman will not. A woman does not do that. Now, you might say that I'm wrong because there are people who have been married together, that people who have been living together happily married for more than 30 years. Sometimes, some people are happily married for more than 50 years. People say, well, you must be wrong because there are marriages that last longer than that and women stay faithful to their men for all that time. Being married and being in love are two different things. The fact that a woman stays with a man for more than 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that she loves him. And I don't mean to say that those women don't love their husbands. I don't mean to say that they no longer love their husbands. I think that would be not a true thing to say. But in most of the marriages that I've seen that are like that, in most of the marriages that I've seen where people have really been together for a long time, people are more just like friends. Like there's not really much passion in the relationship anymore. There's no, sort of romantic energy. People may stay together as friends, but it's not really so much a devoted lifelong love. It's more like the woman's husband is just another friend that she hangs out with. You know, she has a circle of friends that she hangs out with, and the husband is just another one of her friends. She might hang out with her husband one day, she might hang out with a different friend a different day. So, yeah, she might have a husband, but she's not really devoted to the husband in any more meaningful way than she's just devoted to her other friends. Her husband's just one of her friends that she hangs out with sometimes. And, you know, again, what is love? For a woman, friendship is love. For a woman, you love your friends, and, you know, if you like being with people, that's love. Like I said, love is the desire to be with someone, right? Well, in that case, you can love a lot of people. You can love 20 different people because you might have 20 friends that you like to go out with. You might like to you know, spend time with all those friends as a group. Men tend to be more focused on one woman. I think that's part of what I'm saying is part of the difference. You can care for a lot of people. I mean, I have friends as well. I mean, I know a lot of people whom I care for because they're my personal friends, and you know, I enjoy talking to them. I enjoy sharing things with them. Sure, they're nice people. I like them. They like me. I hope they like me. Sure, they're my friends. But I wouldn't spend every moment of my life with them. I wouldn't want to spend, you know, I wouldn't want to like spend 24 hours a day with them. So maybe that's more what I mean. Maybe I wasn't specific enough when I talked about what is love, because for me, when I really love a woman, like when I'm really in love, I want to be with that woman all the time. Not just like, let's go out, you know, for a couple of hours and spend some time together, and then we'll just go home and say bye, and, you know, I'll see you next week or whatever. That's not what I mean. I mean really, like really sharing your whole life, every moment of your life with that person. That's probably more of what I wanted to say when I was talking about love. That is, again, a man's kind of love. A man will develop this sort of obsessive, clingy, codependent kind of love where he just can't live without a woman, where he needs to be with that woman 24 hours a day. A woman may love a man in the sense that she likes to be with him, you know, she likes to see him maybe a couple of times a week, but she also values her alone time. Women need time alone. Women need time where they can be by themselves or with other people. Men generally don't. Men want to just be with their woman all the time, and it just goes on like that. So I guess that's kind of more what I wanted to say. So maybe I gave a wrong idea with what I was talking about before, because I'm not saying that women can't love men as friends. I'm not saying that women can't have any positive feelings or warm feelings towards men, but they would love those men as they love their other friends. They would have a bunch of friends, and their boyfriend or husband or whatever is just one person in a whole group of people that they like to spend their time with. Women don't want to spend all their lives with one man, and that's kind of what I mean by love. Again, you might think that that's not a good idea about love. You might think that that's a lot of people say that that's mentally ill. A lot of people say that it's a mental illness to always want to be with one person all the time. If it is a mental illness, then okay, you can call it that if you want. Call it mentally ill if you want. But that doesn't change the fact that men tend to love that way. Men tend to want to love a woman in that way, and women do not. That's kind of what I've been getting at, what I've been trying to say. So, again, you know, yes, women get married, but if women get married, especially today, because, you know, in our era of feminism where women can make more choices for themselves, a lot of women seem to either get married, again, for convenience, like for financial reasons, let's say, or because they want to start a family. So this is a very big thing. Women, in general, you can say that men love women and women love children. Women love children the way that men love women. So women, as women get older, they will very often feel a strong desire to have children, in the same way that a man desires to have a woman. And it's kind of inconvenient because you can't have children by yourself. unless you use a sperm donor or in vitro fertilization or something. I mean, okay, there may be other options. But in most cases, a woman will want her children to have a father figure. She'll want there to be another person to take care of the children because being a single mother is difficult, obviously. So a woman will want to marry a man, not because she really wants the man, but because she wants children. I don't think that counts as loving a man because she doesn't really love the man. She wouldn't really want to be with the man. She wouldn't really want to marry the man and spend her life with him if it weren't for the children. A woman does that for the sake of the children. She does that because she wants, she wants there to be a father for the children. Obviously, first she needs the physical, sperm to actually fertilize a child. But then after that, she'll probably also want a man to be there to divide the responsibilities of looking after the child, to diaper changing and all the other things that go into raising a child. She'll probably want a man to be there, ideally, to look after the child. But in that case, the woman doesn't really want to be with the man. She doesn't want to be with a man for reasons of wanting to be just with that man. She wants to marry so that she can have children. And I see a lot of married couples who have been married for 50 years, maybe not a lot, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, but a lot of married, to me it seems like a lot. Usually when I see married couples like that who've been married for 50 years, it generally seems to me like what keeps them together is the children. This sort of classical line about they're just staying together for the children. They don't want the children to experience divorce and live in a broken home and things like that. So they stay together for the sake of the children, but the actual mother and father don't really love each other that much. Maybe they don't hate each other. I'm not saying they come to hate each other, but at least they don't necessarily have the same sort of passion, the same sort of real emotional desire to be together that they had before. They just stay together for the children's sake. But as far as actually being with each other, it's kind of like meh. Yeah, whatever. I mean, my spouse, okay, I have a spouse, we have children, yeah, whatever. I love my children. I'm relatively indifferent to my spouse. That tends to be how it goes. I'm not saying it's always that way. Obviously, I'm sure there are exceptions, but in most cases, it seems that way to me. People stay together for the children, or, children move out eventually. Obviously, when children grow up, at least in Western cultures, children usually move out of their parents' house after they grow up. And then people stay married just because it's convenient. It's convenient to have someone to wash the dishes, cook dinner, take out the trash, clean the house, whatever, all those things. So people stay married because it's convenient to divide household responsibilities. But then that's like a housemate. It's like having a housemate. You have somebody to, wash the dishes with something. I mean, that's, again, it's not really love. It's not really a desire to be with that person. It's more just like we're staying together because it's easy. It's convenient to have somebody around the house to, do something if something needs to be done. That's not really love. You could get the same effect from having, like a live-in housemate or roommate or something like that. And again, I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm sure you'll find people who say otherwise. I'm sure you can find married couples who say we've been together for 50 years or more and we still love each other like crazy. I'm sure it happens. It just does not usually happen. It is not the typical thing. And so there's the question. I think this is a fundamental question that people ask themselves or ask each other. What do you bring to my life? It's sometimes when you're dating someone, it's almost like a job interview. Because, when you go to a job interview, they'll usually say, why should you work here? What would you bring to our company? Tell us what value you'd bring to our company. And so when you're dating or in a relationship, people sometimes, they might not pose this question so explicitly. They might not ask the question in exactly those words. But people will often sort of implicitly have this idea, what does my spouse, or not necessarily spouse, but partner, my boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever, what does my partner bring to my life? What does that person do to make my life better? What does that person bring to my life that I couldn't have if I were just single and alone? I think that's a very wrong question to ask, because, again, the whole idea of love, the whole point of love, is just that you want to be with that person. The person doesn't have to do anything special. You know, it's not, again, going back to animals, it's not like animals where the guy has to impress you somehow, you know, like have to, you know, huff himself up and make himself look big and show what a big, strong, powerful male he is. It's not like that. It shouldn't be like that. A lot of women say, you know, the man has to impress me. I need to be impressed by a man. Why does he have to impress you? It's not like, I mean, what is the guy supposed to do? If a woman asks me, what do you bring to my life? How are you going to impress me? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to do a backflip? Am I supposed to do some gymnastics? Or, I mean, seriously, that's not what love is about. That's not what a relationship is about. It's not about like having to do something special to somehow earn love or impress somebody in such a way that you get extra points because you did something really impressive and wow. That's not love. That's not what love is. Love is a sincere emotional desire to be with someone, to share your time and your life with someone because you care about that person so much that you want that person in your life. That's what love is. And if it becomes this sort of thing like, well, what do you bring to my life? How are you going to impress me? That's not love. That's not what love is. And if a person ever asks you something like that, if somebody ever like implies that you have to impress them, or if they say, you know, what do you bring to my life? I'm going to be very honest. I think you should leave that person. If somebody asks you, what are you going to bring to my life? What are you going to do for me that makes it worth having you in my life? If somebody ever asks you a question like that, or even implies, like basically says in, you know, in fairly clear words that they expect that they expect you to do something for them or somehow bring something into their life, then that person doesn't love you and you should leave them, because you should not allow yourself to be tricked into thinking that something is love. Do not allow yourself to be fooled into thinking that a person loves you if they really don't. Don't fool yourself into thinking that this person loves you if they say something like, well, what do you bring to me? What do you bring to my life? What are you going to do for me? If somebody says that to you, that person does not love you. And you should not fool yourself into thinking that that's love. It is not love. Last year, Miley Cyrus had a hit song called Flowers. And the song starts off being about a breakup. So in the song, she breaks up with her former, partner, lover, whatever. And so she sings about how she got sad at first, but then she says she got over it, and she embraces being single. The chorus of the song says, I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, say things you don't understand. I can take myself dancing, I can hold my own hand. Yeah, I can love me better than you can. And this message was welcomed by women. A lot of women said, wow, what a great message. What a strong, empowering message. You know, this is what I mean by feminism. You know, I'm not saying it's bad, but feminism is basically creating a world where we see that this is what women are like. This is how women think. Women, feminism is helping us to understand what women are really like, what's their true nature, not what men wanted them to be, but what women are really like. And what we're seeing is women are actually like this. Women are saying, I'd rather go dancing by myself. I'd rather buy myself flowers than be dependent on a man to do those things for me. Why do I need a man to buy me flowers? Why do I need a man to take me to the beach or to parties to dance with? I can do those things myself. I can love myself better than a man can. And this is how women actually think. This is women's attitude toward men. So, again, for a lot of human history, we got this impression that women wanted to be with men, but I think that in many cases, women just want to be with men for money or power or children. That's basically the two things that women want from men. Two reasons why a woman would really want to be with a man: money or children. If a woman already has her own money, doesn't need any more, and especially if she isn't planning on having children, then she probably doesn't want a man. She probably doesn't want a husband or a boyfriend at all. She's probably happy being on her own. That's what women are like. So, women like the things that men make possible for them. Women like the experiences that men make possible through money or children. But women don't really love men themselves. Women would rather go dancing by themselves. They'd rather buy themselves flowers than take a man with them to the beach or whatever. So this is why so many women are choosing to be single now, because they're realizing that a man doesn't bring anything to their lives. It's not worth it for a woman to be with a man. A man is happy enough just to be with a woman. A woman is not. And so that is the difference between men and women. For a man, a woman brings something to his life just by being there. And I think if you're a man, if you're a heterosexual man who likes women, you've probably had this experience in your life. You've probably gone somewhere with a girlfriend to, I don't know, anywhere, to a party, to the fair, to the park, to a museum, to the zoo, whatever. And the experience becomes a lot more meaningful just because the woman is there. It becomes a lot more emotionally resonant and meaningful for you as a man just because the woman is there. She doesn't have to do anything special. She doesn't have to say anything special. Just by being there, just her being there is enough. Her presence there with you changes the experience totally. Yeah, you're still just going to the zoo or to a concert or whatever, but having her there with you, having that woman accompany you there and being in her company while you're having that experience, that makes all the difference. It's a radically different experience, just having that woman there. And that's all that a man needs. All that a man needs from his woman is just for the woman to be there. She just has to be there. She doesn't have to do anything special. Whereas a woman will say, why would I want a man to just be there? Why do I need a man to just hang around? If the guy is just like standing there or sitting there or whatever, just, not doing anything, what does he bring to my life? Why would I want him to be with me? Why would I want him here with me if he's not going to do anything? It's just like I could more easily just go by myself. It's easier to go by myself because then I don't have to worry about timetables. I don't have to plan when we're going to meet up. I can just go by myself, go on my own time. And it's cheaper because you don't have to buy tickets for two people. You just buy tickets for yourself. So for women, it's like it's easier, it's more convenient, and it's cheaper just to go by myself. I don't need a man to come with me. Again, that's the difference. That's the difference between men and women. Not that long ago, when I started making these vlog videos again, I made a video about meaning in life. And I said that meaning is not something you can decide. I said that meaning comes from our emotions. Meaning comes because we feel that something is meaningful. We feel emotionally that something has emotional meaning for us. And that's the only thing that can make anything meaningful. Anything, any event, any object, any place is only meaningful if it has some kind of emotional significance, emotional importance, emotional meaning for you. If you have no emotions attached to it, then it's not important. It has no meaning. You could just get rid of it, just throw it away, and it has no importance for you. And again, I stressed, and I stress again, you cannot choose what's meaningful for you. You cannot choose what makes your life meaningful. Your emotions are kind of something that you're born with. You can't choose to just like something or dislike something. Either you like it or you don't. You feel that you like something or you don't. You cannot choose what you like. And in that video, I specifically avoided talking about what's meaningful for me personally, because the video was not about me. It was a video about a more general principle, more general concept, like advice for all human beings. These videos are not really about me or myself. I sometimes put my own personal experiences into these videos to give some perspective, to kind of give an idea of where I'm personally coming from. But these videos are not about me or my life. But I specifically avoided talking about what's meaningful for me in that video because I didn't want to, again, it's not about me. But if I say now, I'll tell you now, what makes my life personally meaningful is to be able to share mutual love with a woman. And that's the only thing that really makes my life meaningful. Which is problematic, because it means that when I'm single, as I have been for much of my life, then I have no reason to be alive. I have no meaning in my life. I have no purpose to my life. I have no energy. I have no motivation to live at all, because I have no reason to live without a woman in my life. And, again, the woman doesn't need to do anything special. She doesn't need to be rich. She doesn't need to be powerful. She doesn't need to want children. She doesn't need to do or say anything special. Just to be there, with me in my life. That makes my life meaningful. That is what makes my life personally meaningful to me. And I realize that that's problematic, because it means that I miss out on a lot of life. People will go to, music concerts, whatever, and they'll say, wow, what a great concert, wasn't it cool? And I'll be like, not really. Or people will say, it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful sunny day, the weather is so nice, doesn't that make you glad to be alive? No. Honestly, no, it doesn't. It does not. I don't take joy from seeing the sun come up in the morning if I can't share it with a woman that I love. I don't take much pleasure from things like music or, other life experiences like that if I can't share them with a woman whom I love. I mean, sure, sometimes I'll listen to music and say, music is nice. Like, sure, I can enjoy music to some extent. But it takes on a whole new dimension when I can share it with a woman I love. And if you've never experienced that, if you're not that kind of person who really needs that kind of love in your life, I can't explain what it's like. I can't rationally, logically explain or justify feeling that way. I can't tell you why it's that way. All I can say is it is that way. That's how my personal emotional response is to things that I experience in my life. My life is not meaningful when I'm single. And that might sound like a terrible thing to say. It might sound like a very negative or self-defeating or self-destructive thing to say. but I say it because it's the truth. The reason I'm making this video is because I'm saying things that I think a lot of people don't understand, but should understand, because these things are true. I lied to myself for a long time because people told me these usual cliche lines like, oh, you're not ready to love another person until you love yourself. You have to love yourself first. Love your life, find joy within yourself, find motivation to live in your own everyday life. And then when you do that, then you're ready to get into a relationship with a person. I cannot do that. I've tried. I do not find joy. I do not find life motivation in life experiences that are experienced by myself. Maybe just for a moment, like sure, in the morning if I look out the window and see the sun is shining for like 5 seconds, I might say, oh, nice sunshine, great. And then that's it. And then I move on and I forget about any reason to feel happy in my life. The only thing that gives me a lasting, really lasting, enduring life satisfaction and a sense of joy in life is being able to share those things with a woman whom I love and who loves me back, like mutual love, not one-sided love, because one-sided love is terrible. One-sided love makes you feel even worse. And again, the woman doesn't need to do anything. She doesn't have to do anything special. She doesn't have to impress me somehow. She doesn't have to bring anything into my life other than herself. All that she needs to bring is herself. And if we love each other, that's all I need. I do not ask for anything else. That's the difference between men and women. But I believe these ideas because people told them to me. So many people told me it's unhealthy to need a woman in your life. It's self-destructive to depend on love in that way. And so I spent some period of my life, at least a year, more than a year, sort of lying to myself that way, sort of trying to take on these social values, saying, I'll be happy if I can be independent, if I can learn to love myself, love my life, and be independent, then I'll learn to finally be happy. I honestly think that during that stage of my life, I think I was more miserable and more unhappy than I've ever been at any other period in my life, because not only did I not have any reason to be happy, I lied to myself about what would make me happy. I lied to myself that I was happy with what I had when I was not. And that sort of self-deception makes a person even more unhappy. I didn't even admit to myself what I wanted and what I needed for my own life, and that made me so much more unhappy. So today, I'm not ashamed to say that I am dependent on a woman's love to find meaning in my life. And you can say that that's sick. You can say that I'm mentally sick. You can say that I'm codependent. You can say that I'm clingy. You can say that I'm, all these words that people use to denigrate people with that sort of idea or attitude. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. What I'm saying is the truth. I'm saying these things because they are the truth. And whatever you think of them, whatever you make of them, is up to you. I realized too that the practical problems with living that way, because you get attached to a person, you start building all these sorts of plans for the future with a person, and you feel really happy because you're in love, you're in a relationship, and then when that person leaves you, you're back to square one. If the relationship ends, as it probably will because most relationships end, then you're left with nothing. You have nothing in your life because everything in your life has no meaning for you. If your whole meaning of life is invested in that one person, if your whole meaning of life is invested just in that one person, then a breakup is totally devastating. It ruins your whole life because it means that you have nothing now. Everything that you have is meaningless to you because your whole meaning of life was just based around that one person. I realize that. I understand that. I know that that is true. But again, I cannot change how I feel. I cannot change what's important to me. I cannot change what I like or dislike. I cannot change what brings personal meaning to my life. These were not choices that I made or could make. This is something biological. That's the difference between men and women. If you're a heterosexual person, as I guess most people are, imagine having sex with a person of the same sex, if you were sex. Do you like that idea? You probably don't. Or if you're gay, if you like having sex with people of the same sex, then imagine having sex with someone of the opposite sex. You don't like that idea. Or if you're bisexual, then imagine, I don't know, sex with animals or with small children. I don't know, whatever. There has to be something that you don't like. Imagine something that you dislike, that turns you off. Could you just convince yourself? Could you just make yourself like something? Could you just decide, yeah, I like that now. I'm into that now. No. No, you cannot. As far as I know, as far as I can tell, desire and emotion is something biological. It's a biological thing that people are born with, and that's why I say the difference between men and women is biological. I cannot choose what I like, what gives me certain emotions. I am what I am and who I am. You cannot just say, hey, I'm going to like that now, or I'm going to like that other thing now. You cannot do that. You cannot decide how you feel. You cannot change how you feel. You can lie to yourself, as I did, and pretend to yourself and to other people that you like something different. I don't think that you will improve your life by doing so. I don't think that that will make your life better. I think that trying to change your attitude in that way is just living a lie. And in the end, you will not make your life better by doing that. So yeah, all the things that some people take pleasure in, like all my accomplishments. Like sometimes I do really well at work, and my boss or my co-workers would tell me, hey, good job, you did really well with whatever you did. Sometimes I get praise at work. Or in my personal life, sometimes people tell me, whatever. People say nice things to me sometimes. Thanks. Honestly, I know it sounds ungrateful, but it doesn't really mean much to me. Because I don't take meaning in my accomplishments. I don't take meaning from people's praise. I don't really care too much what other people think of me, whether they like me or dislike me. It's all the same to me. It doesn't really matter to me that much, to be perfectly honest. And again, all those things that are supposed to make a person happy, like beautiful weather, beautiful music, enjoying good food, whatever else, it's or even just being alive. Just the experience of being alive should be enough to make me happy. It is not. That does not make me happy. And I cannot choose to be happy because of those things. I cannot just say, hey, I'm going to feel happy because of that now. What makes me happy is my capacity to share those things with a woman whom I love, and again, who loves me in return, of course. That is the only thing that creates light in the darkness. And again, as far as I can tell, I was born that way. There's always this question, nature or nurture. Was a person born this way, or did they become that way because of some experiences that they had, formative experiences they had when they were a child? I don't know. Did I develop this way because of something that happened to me when I was a child? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe my childhood had some impact, but as far as I can tell, I was always this way. I think that I was born this way because this seems to be a biological male thing. And that's, again, what I'm getting at with this video. This fundamental need, this fundamental emotional need to have a life partner, because your life is not meaningful without that partner. It's kind of a biological male thing. It's kind of a guy thing. It's kind of a man's thing. Women, biological women, generally do not feel this need. Women are happy being single. Men are not. Men get their whole meaning in life from a woman. Women get their meaning in life from being alive, or whatever other stuff. Things, like I said, like music, food, whatever. Those are the things that bring meaning to a woman's life. A man gets meaning in his life from a woman. Okay, so even if we accept this idea, let's say maybe I'm right. Let's say, at least for myself, maybe not for every single man in the world, but at least for myself, let's say I'm right, that my whole meaning of life comes from being able to share life with a woman, share love with a woman. Okay, a lot of people will then tell me, well, I should consider myself lucky because I should be easily able to get a girlfriend. A lot of people tell me, you're not bad looking. Not everyone finds me attractive, but a lot of people, at least enough people, have found me physically attractive. So people will say, you're a pretty good looking guy. You're tall. You seem intelligent. You can speak about interesting things. You're in pretty good shape physically and mentally. You seem pretty healthy. You're not addicted to drugs or anything crazy like that. So you should easily be able to get a girlfriend. So, okay, if love is so important to you, then you should consider yourself lucky because you should easily be able to attract women. The thing is, yeah, I'm superficially attractive. Again, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to, I'm not trying to brag or boast or anything, but I am aware that some people find me physically attractive. Okay, that's great. But these are all surface things. These are all just the first things that people notice. I've been in several relationships, and yes, I am lucky that I, can attract people in a certain way. I'm lucky that people like how I look, or they like the sound of my voice, or they like my intelligence, whatever. In that sense, yes. It's not necessarily difficult for me to attract a woman. But, again, these are all just very superficial, sort of surface level things. And there's a totally different set of things that you need to be able to keep a woman. And that's not something that I'm good at. When you get into a relationship, women don't stay with a man because he's handsome or, any of those other things that I mentioned. The real reason that a woman stays in a relationship is if the relationship makes her happy. At the end of the day, what women want from a relationship is for it to make her happy. A woman wants to feel happy when she's, with her boyfriend, husband, whatever, and that's why she stays. Either that or money. Again, money and children are the kind of practical things that women get from men. So a woman might stay with a man for his money. A woman might stay with a man because of the children. If it's not for those reasons, if a woman wants to stay with a man just for the man, then the man has to make her happy. At the end of the day, a woman will stay with a man if he makes her happy. That's something I don't do. I don't make women happy. And that's why I have been in so many relationships that ended so badly. I've been in something like, rounded off, something like 10, roughly 10 serious long-term relationships in my whole life. I think that sounds like a lot to some people. Some people say, wow, 10 like serious relationships, like not even counting, just like casual dating where I was, dating somebody for like 2 days, but like really like more serious relationships. That's a lot. It sounds like a lot. And maybe people think that I have problems with commitment because I've been in so many relationships. People say, you must have trouble committing to a woman because if you've been in so many relationships, then you must have commitment issues. No, I don't. I don't think that I do. Okay, granted, people don't always perceive themselves very well. I admit that maybe there are some things about myself that I don't perceive very clearly, and maybe I have a wrong idea about myself. But honestly, my honest opinion about myself is I don't think that I have commitment issues. I don't think that I have ever left a relationship. There were certainly women whom I rejected. There were women whom I briefly dated and thought, oh, I don't want to be with her. I'm not, doesn't seem like a good idea. It doesn't seem like a good fit or whatever. So, there are certainly women that I dated briefly and then said, no, I don't want to be with her. But if I get into a more committed relationship, like if I really start to get into a more serious relationship, I will claim that I have never in my life left a long-term relationship. I thought about this. There's only one exception that I can really think of, and that was because my girlfriend had just survived a suicide attempt, and I realized that she was going through very serious emotional and mental issues, and that I might not be the best person to help her with that because various reasons. I have issues of my own. I'm not necessarily, I think I'm fairly stable. I think, I don't think that I have very serious mental issues, but I do sometimes have problems with depression. And that's probably not a good influence to be around when you're suicidal. Probably not a good experience to be with somebody who has their own depression when you yourself feel like killing yourself. So it was partly that I have my own issues, but also I work a lot. I'm often away at work, so I also realized that I wasn't really able to give her the care and the attention that she needed because I'm often away at work. It's hard for me sometimes to be with my partner because I work a lot. So because she had just survived a suicide attempt, and because I realized that she had very serious issues which needed urgent attention, urgent remediation, I started telling her, I think you should spend more time with your friends. I think maybe rather than us spending so much time together, I think you might want to take a little bit more time away from me and start spending more time with your friends who can probably support you better, give you better mental care than what I can do. And so I didn't explicitly break up with her, but I sort of indicated a few times that maybe it's better for us to start going in a different direction. And she got the message, and she left eventually, which I think was good for her. I'm not in touch with her anymore, but I think that she's probably doing better now than she was when she was with me. So In that case, you can kind of say maybe you could sort of argue I left her because I kind of initiated the break. I didn't just break up with her. I didn't just say, you know, we're done, get out. But I sort of initiated the breakup by saying, I think we need to rethink this, and I think we need to start, you know, taking a different life course. And I don't think that counts. I don't think that counts as me breaking up because, again, it was very clear to me that she had very serious issues, that she needed very urgent care in a way that I couldn't really provide it. And so I don't think that counts. Other than that, I will claim that I have never left a partner in my life, someone whom I was really committed to. So, and maybe there were some other cases where it was kind of a mutual decision, where we kind of mutually came together and said, you know what, we're not happy, it's not working out. Maybe it's better that we think about moving on and seeing other people. So there may be some situations where it was kind of like a mutual decision, but I have never just unilaterally left a partner. I have never unilaterally left someone when I was in a long-term committed relationship with them. Some people may disagree with me. There's one person in particular who I think will probably disagree with that. I'll come back to that later. But I will claim that I have never left a partner. I have never left a committed relationship. Once I commit to somebody, I stay committed to that person. So, no, I don't think that I have commitment issues. I don't think that I don't leave my partners. I don't leave a woman when I'm like really devoted to her. And that woman whom I started telling her that she should leave, don't get the idea that I was trying to get rid of her. Don't get the idea that I was saying, oh, this chick is wacko, I need to get away from her. It wasn't like that at all. I loved her very, very much. I loved her more than I can express. But I let her go. Because I knew that was the best thing for her. So this is important for me because it's a repeating pattern. I have a repeating pattern of people leaving me. And what's interesting is that people often try to make this out like it's my fault. So it's kind of like there's this sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If I left a lot of my partners and people would tell me, well, it's your fault. You know, what do you think is going to happen to you? You keep leaving people. What do you think you're single because you keep leaving? But if people keep leaving me, people still somehow try to make it out like it's my fault by saying, well, you must have made them leave. You must have done something to make her leave because she wouldn't just leave for no reason. I disagree with that. I think that women need a reason to stay. Women don't need a reason to leave. Women will leave if the relationship just isn't working for them. People need a reason to stay. You know, it's like that Tracy Chapman song, give me a reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Give me a reason to stay here. So, for me, it's like, if I were to ever leave a partner, which again, I will claim that I've never done, if I were to ever leave someone, I would need a really good reason to do that. And in that one woman's case, her suicide attempt, her barely surviving a suicide attempt, was for me a good reason to rethink her relationship. It was a good reason for me to say, I think we need to make different plans, go on a different, take a different course in life now. But for women, it's the opposite. A woman doesn't need a reason to leave. She needs she needs a reason to stay. So, and again, this keeps happening to me. again, if this happened one time, that you could just say, well, okay, it's a one-off, bad luck, whatever, you weren't right for each other, whatever happened, stuff happens, okay, whatever. But because it keeps happening, when the same thing keeps happening over and over, you start to realize that these are not just coincidences. These are not just one-off cases. There has to be some reason why this keeps happening. There has to be a cause. There has to be some underlying cause. And the question then is obviously, whose fault was it? Was it my fault? Is it my fault that women keep leaving me? Or am I just hooking up with the wrong women? What's going on? I think there's no simple answer. I mean, usually when a relationship ends, especially if it's a long-term relationship, maybe not if it's like a short-term thing, like again, just dating for a few days, but if it's a long-term relationship that's been going on for months, or especially if it's been going on for years, if the relationship's lasted for years, there's usually not just like one big reason why people leave. Maybe if there's something big that happens, like maybe if somebody cheats, you have sex with somebody else, or, something like that. Okay. Or you go to prison because of something. Okay. Sometimes there's one big thing that happens like that. But in most cases, a relationship, like a long-term relationship like that, is not going to end for just one thing. There's probably going to be a lot of smaller things that build up over time. And it really ends up being a lot of things that culminate in somebody saying, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm not going to stay anymore. I can't handle this anymore. I'm going to leave. It's usually a lot of little things that sort of accumulate over time. And again, people often say that it must be my fault because people say, I mean, look at you. You're a pretty good-looking guy. You're not like Mr. Universe, but you're not bad. Pretty intelligent. You have a job, so you're not like some homeless bum. Not addicted to drugs. Pretty healthy. Reasonably healthy, in both physically and mentally. So if you keep making women leave, then you must really have a bad personality. You must really have such a bad personality that you're just driving them away. I don't think that I'm doing anything terribly wrong. I think it's more about what I'm not doing. And that's the thing. Again, a woman needs a reason to stay. I don't think I'm really doing anything that drives women away. I don't think that I'm doing anything that causes them to say, wow, I really can't stay with this guy. He's hopeless. He's so terrible. It's more just that I'm not doing anything that makes them want to stay with me. I think that's really the issue. And again, I think that's the difference between, or a difference between men and women. Men will stay just because they love the woman. That's all they need. A woman needs a reason to stay. Just being with the man is not enough. Women will say, why do I want to be with a man? I can be by myself just as well. I need a reason to stay with the guy. And that's, again, why, why men have to impress women somehow. The man has to do something to somehow impress her so that she says, wow, this guy's impressive, I want to stay with him. If anybody ever asks you to impress them, if your partner ever asks you that you have to impress them somehow, this is kind of what I said before. I think you should leave them. You should leave that person because if they expect you to impress them, again, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go, supposed to turn cartwheels or something? Will that make you love me? I mean, if you have to do stuff like that, that's ridiculous. That's not love. If somebody expects you to do something to impress them and that's the only reason they'll stay with you, then that person doesn't love you. And you shouldn't strain yourself to try to impress somebody who needs to be impressed. The person should want to be with you because they love you. If that's not enough for them, then you should not waste your time with that person because that person is wasting your time. And you're probably wasting their time as well. So my problem is really just how I live, I think. Just my lifestyle. I mean, what do I do with my life? I go to work. Like I said, I work a lot. That's one of the problems that I have. I work long hours, so relationships are difficult because I'm always at work. And when I get back from work, I'm usually tired. This is not only my problem, this is a typical thing that happens to a lot of people who work. You go to work, you have a long day at work, you get home, you're tired. You're very tired after work. You don't really want to do anything. You don't want to go out and, do some whatever people do. You just want to sit at home and rest, have dinner and just relax. You want to get rid of the stress of the day. And that's what people do. They work so much that they don't have, even when they have spare time, even when they have off time, they just want to use that time to relax and kind of forget about the stress of work. That's basically what I do. What else do I do with my free time? Not much, to be honest. I don't go out much. I don't like going to bars or nightclubs or things like that. It's not really my scene. I don't like places where it's really loud. I don't go out much to movies or music concerts or things like that. I mean, I can listen to music at home and watch movies at home. I don't go out much to museums. I mean, I like museums, but how often do you go to a museum? It's not something you do every day. You go to a museum like maybe, I mean, occasionally, sure, I'll do that, but you can't rely on something like that to provide something to do in a relationship. If you live with somebody, you kind of have this question every day: what are we going to do? What do you want to do now? And I don't do much, and that's kind of the problem that I have. I mostly stay at home, and I think for most women, it's kind of like being in a prison. That home that you stay in starts to feel like a prison after a while, because women want to go out. Women want to go out and see things and do things and meet with their friends and go to music concerts and movies and parties and gatherings, and they want to travel to the beach. They want to travel to some exotic destination and go to the beach and lie on the beach and sunbathe and swim in the ocean and all this kind of stuff. Women don't just like to stay at home with a guy. Women don't just want to stay at home every day with a guy. It's not satisfying to them. And I think I might be wrong. Again, people don't always perceive themselves very well. And when people leave, they don't usually say why. I mean, when women leave me, they don't usually give an explanation and say, well, here's what you did wrong, here's what you could have done better, here are my suggestions for your next relationship. They just leave. They just say, I'm done. I'm tired of this. I'm not feeling it anymore. I just want to leave. And there's not really much I can learn from that, so I can only draw my own conclusions, and these are the conclusions that I've drawn, that I just don't really do enough. And I've tried doing stuff, I used to try going out with women more. I used to try going out to bars and whatever. The effort might be appreciated at first, but the thing is, if you don't really want to do it, she's not really going to have much fun with you. If you force yourself to go to a party with a woman because she wants to go, you're probably going to spoil it for her. I've spoiled experiences like that for women, for my girlfriends, because I forced myself to go there for her sake, but I didn't really like it. And she could tell I wasn't having a good time, and so that ruined it for her. Again, it was like, why is this guy just hanging around? What does it bring to my experience if this guy, this boyfriend, is just sitting there and he's obviously kind of in a bad mood because he's not enjoying himself? I could enjoy myself more if I'm alone. He just makes me feel worse. If he's just sitting there stewing in a bad mood because he didn't want to be here, he just makes me feel worse. I'd rather be here by myself. I can do this better alone. I can have more fun alone than taking this guy with me. So I think in a lot of cases, that's just why my relationships end. At least it seems that way to me. So again, I don't feel like I'm doing anything horribly wrong. I don't think that I'm abusive. Like I've never hit a woman. Okay, there's abuse is not just physical. There's emotional abuse as well. I don't think that I emotionally abuse my partners. I don't know. Maybe I say things. I mean, sometimes I get angry and I'll say things in anger, but I don't think that's abuse. I think that's just normal getting angry, but maybe people perceive that differently. I don't know. Maybe it sounds like I'm trying to make excuses. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm not trying to paint myself as a perfect person or a perfect partner. I know that I'm not. Nobody's perfect, and I accept that I have flaws, but I don't think I'm that hard to put up with. I don't think I'm that intolerable. I think it's not that I'm doing something wrong. I think it's just that I don't bring something to women's lives. I don't bring something that makes it worth being with me. That's all that it is. In my opinion, it's not all that it is maybe, but that's most of what it is. At the end of the day, if you make a woman happy, she will want to be with you. If she feels happy with you, if you make her happy, then of course she'll want to keep coming back because you make her happy. If you don't make her happy, if you don't bring anything to her, then she'll leave. And so that, I've been in a lot of relationships where women are attracted to me because they like these sort of again, surface level things about me. They like how I look. A lot of women say they like my voice because I have kind of a deep voice. Okay, that's nice. It's nice that people like me in that way, but that's not something that sustains a relationship. You can't keep a relationship going that way. You can maybe start a relationship based on that, but there needs to be something else beyond that if the relationship is going to last more than a few months. So, yeah. If there's nothing else, if there's nothing else that we can do in the relationship beyond just enjoy the sound of my deep voice, that gets old very quickly. And then all these hopes that women have, all these, sort of ideas that they have for the future, they think they're going to, start a relationship, and whatever, all these sort of hopes that women had start to disappear, and women feel trapped and unfulfilled. They feel trapped in an unfulfilling relationship, and then they want to leave. Whereas for me, again, like I said, I just need to be with the woman. She doesn't need to do anything. She doesn't even need to say anything. I mean, sometimes it's nice to talk about things, but sometimes it's just nice to sit together, just to hold hands and just share the moment of being together. And it doesn't have to be anything more than that. And again, it might sound nice when I say that, maybe describing that, holding hands and just sitting together and just enjoying, cuddling or whatever for a moment. It sounds very romantic, but it gets old after a while. If that's all you do all the time with a woman, she's going to get tired of that. And that's the thing. That's why my relationships tend to start off very well. They start off really well because, you can do all these things. But after a while, it's like, okay, what now? What else is there? What's next? What are we going to do now? Well, there's no answer. We're going to do nothing. We're just going to sit here and hold hands for the next 30 years of our lives. And then women say, okay, no, I'm out. Whereas for men, I don't know how it works for gay men. I'm not gay. I've never been in a gay relationship, so I can't really comment on how it works for gay men, but at least for heterosexual men, at least for men who are attracted to women, I think that most of those men have had this experience, just finding that just being somewhere with a woman makes a huge difference. It makes that experience all the more meaningful just by having the woman be there. You don't need anything else. She doesn't need to do anything, just be there. That's what makes the difference. So yeah, and again, this is something that's sort of been enabled by feminism. Again, I'm not saying that feminism is a bad thing. I'm not saying feminism is bad. I'm just saying feminism is making us more aware than we were before, that this is what women were like that Miley Cyrus song, I can love myself better than you can. This is a song that's popular today because of feminism. It wouldn't have been a popular song 500 years ago, probably. So it's not good or bad. I'm not saying that it's, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this is how women are. I used to be on OkCupid. I think most of you probably know what that is, but for those who don't, OkCupid is a dating website. It's one of the best-known dating websites. I haven't been there for a while. I haven't been there for years because it didn't really work out for me. So I don't know what options they have now because they used to keep changing their user interface all the time. So I don't know what options they have now. But at least when I was there, they had an option for what kind of relationship you're looking for. And the options included long-term dating and short-term dating. There were other options as well, but those were two of the options. Now, I think it's important to understand the difference between these, and to understand the difference between them is not just how long they last. Some people might think that long-term dating is just like short-term dating, except just different time frames. But no, they're absolutely different things. Short-term dating tends to focus on superficial things. It tends to focus on a person's looks. So, the person has to be good looking, and not only what they look like, but also, short-term dating is about having fun. If a person wants short-term dating, that means they want to have fun. So, they want to go out, they want to go to parties and concerts and whatever, events. And so it's important that their partner is good looking. It's important that their partner is fun. They want a fun person to take with them to fun things like parties and concerts and events and whatever. Long-term dating doesn't really focus that much on what a person looks like. I mean, of course, it's nice if a person is attractive, but the appearance of your partner is not that important in long-term dating. What's important in long-term dating is compatibility. So it's important that people have compatible personalities and lifestyles. They need to have similar lifestyles. They need to have similar, or at least compatible values and interests and hobbies and activities which they can share with their partner. And they need to have compatible plans for the future. So, things like do you want to have children? I mean, for short-term dating, that's totally irrelevant because you're probably not going to have children with somebody whom you're only with for a short time. But things like, do you want to have children or pets? Kind of house pets do you want to have? What are your career plans for the next few years? Do you want to move somewhere else? Do you want to move to a different city or a different country at some point in the future? All this stuff, all these are the things that people ask for long-term dating. Again, it's kind of like a job interview, but these are things that are important to understand. These are things that are important to agree on, and things that are important to kind of establish when you're doing long-term dating, which are kind of irrelevant for short-term dating. I think one of the most telling things that I tended to see on OkCupid was, they had different kind of questions. You could fill out different essays telling things about yourself. One of the questions was something like, what are you doing, what are you typically doing on a Friday night? Or describe your typical Friday night, something like that. A lot of people, I saw so many people write things like, who cares? It doesn't matter what I'm doing on a Friday night. Like, why, it's totally irrelevant when you're dating or looking for somebody what you do on a Friday night. And I think that's very, very wrong. Because if you can't share things with your partner, like if you can't do things together with your partner, then what kind of relationship can there be? It's like if one person prefers to stay at home, one person likes to stay at home and watch TV, and the other person wants to spend Friday night going out to some, music club or whatever and go dancing, what can they share? How can they share time together if they want to do totally different things? To me, that's like one of the most important questions, because a lot of people match on things like musical tastes. People say, I want to date this person because they like the same band that I like. I don't understand that at all. I like the Beatles. Oh, me too. We should go out because we both like the same band. No. That's something for short-term dating. For short-term dating, that might be important because you might want to go to a concert together, and then it's like, well, what band would we see? You don't want to see a band that you don't like, so it helps if both people like the same music, and then they can go to the same music concerts together. That's great for short-term dating. For long-term dating, your musical preferences are not that important. What's important is, what do you do with your life? What do you do with your time? How do you spend your spare time? And so for me, it was like, I don't know, maybe I'm too judgmental, but for me, it was a big, big red flag if somebody said they want long-term dating, but then they list like all their favorite movies and all their favorite bands. But when it comes to what am I doing on Friday night, they'll just say, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is totally irrelevant. Why even ask a question like that? That doesn't matter. Who cares what I'm doing on a Friday night? That shows that those people don't really understand how dating works. They think that you can just match up with somebody based on you like the same movie. I like The Godfather. I like The Shining. Wow, me too. We should get married because we like the same movie. So, people match on these ridiculously sort of superficial, irrelevant things. I mean, it's not totally irrelevant. Music is a big part of many people's lives, and so if music is a big part of your life, then it does help. It certainly does help the relationship if you can enjoy the same music. That is, depending on how important music is for your life, that can be a bigger or lesser thing. If you don't listen to music much anyway, then it's probably not that relevant. If you're one of those people who's always playing music, for whom music is a really big part of your life, then yes, then it probably will help if you like the same type of music. But that's not like the most important thing. That's still kind of like a side thing. I think in most cases, the real thing that creates compatibility between people, the real thing that fosters long-term relationships is living the same way, having the same kind of lifestyle, doing the same kind of things with your life. Because that's when you're really on the same track with your partner. And if you just say, well, who cares what I'm doing on Friday night? It doesn't matter. That doesn't make any difference. That you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for a bad relationship because you're going to probably want to do different things from your partner because you never agreed on what you like to do in your spare time. So, if you if you focus on certain things, it kind of gives away what you want, if that makes sense. It's like you might say, I want a long-term relationship, but if you're choosing your partners based on their musical taste, that says something different. That shows that either you're not really looking for something long-term, or you don't know how to plan a long-term relationship. That kind of shows that you're not really in it for the long term. And I think that when men date, if a man wants to go out on a date, it seems to me like most men want one of two things. Either they want sex, they just want, no strings attached sex. They want to have sex and then be able to leave in the morning a free man without any further obligations. Or they want the total opposite. They want the long-term dating, they want the long-term commitment, they want a woman to really spend her whole life with him and, go through that whole process of, not only getting married, but also all the other things that come with building a life together. So either men are just really horny and they just want sex with any person who will have sex with them, or they want the whole thing. They really want something serious. They want a true life partner who will actually share life with them. And I mean, like really, like I said, 24 hours a day, not just like, sharing nice moments here and there, but like really sharing life 24 hours a day, like really this whole sort of clingy, codependent sort of thing. That's what men tend to want. Women, in my experience, either don't want any relationship at all. A lot of women are happily single and want to stay single and don't want a man in their lives. Or they'll want short-term dating, like what I described as short-term dating. They like having fun with guys. They want a good-looking guy to go out with them and take them to fun places and have fun with the guy. but they don't want to get tied down with a man for the long term. They don't want any commitment. So this whole sort of idea that there's this sort of cultural idea that we have, again, going back to what I was saying before, there's this sort of classical cultural idea that men who just want sex are bad boys, and a good man should want to settle down and want to have a permanent commitment and attachment to a woman. That's sort of a cultural idea that I grew up with. But it's actually just the opposite, I think. I think that women have issues with commitment, not men. Women, if they want a man, women will just want to be with the man because it's fun. They want to, they want to have sex, or they want to have good experiences going to parties and things like that. But as soon as it's no longer fun, the woman will just leave. She'll just say, I'm not having fun anymore. A man will want the relationship for the relationship's sake. For a man, it's meaningful to say, I have a girlfriend. For a man, it's meaningful to say, that's my girlfriend or my wife over there. Oh, you're married or you're in a relationship. That's great. Congratulations. Good for you. The man takes meaning just from having a woman in his life. But for the woman, the relationship itself is nothing if it's not fun. For a woman, the relationship is a means to an end. For a woman, the relationship is just a way to have fun and make life more enjoyable. Whereas for the man, the relationship is an end in itself. It's like the man just wants to be in a relationship. He just wants to have a woman there, even if they're not really doing anything special together. Again, I think this is a fundamental difference between men and women. Men want a relationship, just to be in a relationship. Women will only want a relationship if it's fun. If the relationship is fun and it makes them happy, great. They'll happily get into a relationship if it's fun and it makes them happy. Otherwise, why bother? They'll leave. They'll leave the relationship if it's not fun. So, we had this sort of idea. We grew up with this idea. And when I say we, I mean people of my generation. I'm 42, so people growing up in like the 1980s, 1990s. We had this sort of idea that, guys who just want sex, those are bad boys. We should be better. We should be, committed family men who want to really settle down with a woman and want to build a life together with her. And we sort of had this idea that that's what women want. We were wrong. That's not what women want. Women don't want to be tied down to a man. Women want to be independent. And again, if a woman wants a man, she just wants money or children. Or fun in the short term. If she wants a man, she probably wants fun in the short term. If she wants a man for the long term, it's usually just for money or for children. That's about it. There are no real other reasons why a woman would want to stay with a man for long term, more than a few months or a couple of years. In most cases. There are exceptions. In most cases, I think that's true. So, and I saw this too, like, I attract a lot of women. Not going to lie. I mean, I have attracted a lot of women in my life, but things turned very sexual very quickly in most cases. In most cases, when a woman was attracted to me and wanted to be with me, she very quickly made it about sex and wanted sex. So, this idea that men just want sex, that men are horny and women want something serious, I sometimes feel like it's the opposite. I want something serious, but women are just like, well, can't we have sex? Let's have sex. Let's have sex. I think that there is a general problem that women have, that they confuse sex and love. Men do the same. Men also do that. Men also often think that they're in love when really they just want sex. But women do that as well. Women think that if a guy is regularly having sex with her, then he loves her. Women think that if he passionately makes love to her on a regular basis, that must mean that he really loves her. It does not. If a guy is regularly having vigorous sex with a woman, that does not mean that he loves her. He may love her, but that doesn't, it's not proof that he loves her at all. In most cases, it just means that he's horny and he wants sex. That is not love. And the thing is, what I find kind of interesting, people understand this. Like, people understand this intellectually. People know intellectually that sex is not love. Sex and love are different things. But it's one thing to know something intellectually as a fact, like a mental fact, and it's another thing to feel it emotionally. Like, it really amazes me how women will conclude that if a man keeps wanting sex with her, that means he loves her. And the inverse is true as well. One other problem that I have, talking about myself personally, I don't have a very high sex drive. I'm not saying that I don't like sex or that I don't have any particular issues with sex. I don't have a very strong sex drive. I don't want to have it that often. And women very quickly get this idea, and to me it seems like a very strange idea. Women very quickly get this idea: if he's not having sex with me, that means he doesn't love me. If he doesn't want sex with me, that means he doesn't love me anymore. It does not mean that. I can assure you, if a guy stops having sex with a woman, it does not mean that he no longer loves her. That's very wrong thing to think. But a lot of people seem to reach this, especially a lot of women seem to reach this conclusion that if he stops having sex with me, well, he doesn't love me anymore. What's wrong? Why doesn't he love me anymore? It doesn't mean the guy doesn't love her anymore. It just means that maybe he's not in the mood. Guys don't always want sex. And especially guys who are into long-term relationships after a while, after, the initial sort of, often there's like this initial sort of burst of passion where the guy wants to have sex 3 times a day. But after that, a few weeks or months later, he's over it and he doesn't want sex all the time. It doesn't mean that he doesn't love the woman. He might still want to be with the woman. But the woman thinks, well, he doesn't have sex with me anymore, so he doesn't love me anymore. And if he does love me, well, I don't want to be with him if there's no sex. So, again, it's just about sex. It's not about true love. It's not about wanting to be with that person. The woman doesn't really want to be with that guy. She just wants the sex. She likes the relationship for what it brings to her. She likes the relationship for the sex that the relationship provides. But she doesn't want to be with the guy if he doesn't give her sex, because the main basis of the relationship is sex. And all these other things like going to museums together, romantic candlelight dinners and all that stuff, it's nice, but it's like, if there's no sex, then what's the point? Forget it. If he's not going to have sex with me, then just forget it. I'm going to leave. So, sex is not love. But women will usually leave if there's no sex. And that's, again, why I say I don't think that women really love men. Women love sex. Women like having sex. Women like it if the sex is good. But if there's no sex, they can't conceive of the idea that the guy loves her unless he's having sex with her on a pretty regular basis. That's a difference between men and women. And again, I'm not saying that guys don't want sex. Obviously, lots of guys want sex. But over the long term, a guy will usually start to lose interest in sex, whereas women will not. Women will usually want to keep getting sex from the guy. And for the guy, sex becomes boring because it's more like the relationship is more about exploring other things with the woman, exploring her ideas about art or, history or politics or psychology or stuff like that. Like, a man starts to get interested in stuff like that with his woman, but the woman just wants sex. And she says, yeah, I don't care about that other stuff. I just want sex. If you're not going to have sex with me, then just forget it. I'm going to leave. And people think they're in love. That's the thing. People think they're in love if the sex is good. If you can give somebody really good sex, especially if you do it regularly, not just once, but like if you fairly consistently give a person really good sex, somehow they will convince themselves that they're in love. Somehow they associate, this action. Somehow they think that that's love. They think, okay, well, that means the person loves me. And vice versa. If they're not doing that constantly, then they don't love me anymore. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand that mentality. People have this strange kind of confusion. They think that sex equals love, and they cannot separate these concepts in their mind. If you really love somebody, like if you passionately love somebody, then maybe sometimes you'll want to have sex with them. But they're still different things. They're still different things. They're very different things. They don't always go together. And by the way, this is, I think, why so many men send dick pics to women. If you're a woman on the internet, one of your complaints about being on the internet is probably that guys often will send you unsolicited photographs of their penis. And, you might ask yourself, as a woman, why do guys do this? Do guys really think that a woman is going to get turned on by that? Is a woman really going to, do guys really think that a woman's going to say, wow, cool, you sent me a picture of your penis, that turns me on, I want to experience your penis now. The reason why guys do that, in my opinion, based on my information, is because there are enough women who do react that way. Statistically, I don't have statistics in front of me now, but I remember reading an article on it. I think something like 5% of women, roughly, actually react positively to dick pics. They'll actually say, oh, cool, wow, it's your penis. Show me more. I want to see more of your penis. I want to, interact with, I want to touch your penis. It's a small number of women. It's a small fraction of women who react positively to it, but there are women who do it. And that's why guys do it, because guys don't care if 95% of women just blow them off or get offended or upset. If there's 5%, even if it's just 1% of women would be enough. If there's 1% of women who react positively to it, then guys will do it. Guys will say, yeah, I found a woman who liked my penis picture, and now we can have sex or whatever. That's why guys do it, because most women don't like it, but there is a small minority of women who do like it and who will see a dick pic and say, oh, cool, show me more. I want to see more. I like that. Show me more of that. I want to have sex with you. And that's enough. There are enough of those women that guys will keep doing it. That's why guys do it, because there is a small fraction, but a large enough fraction of women who react positively to those pictures that guys keep doing it because they want to find those women who will like it. So, there are women who are horny. There are actually women who are comfortable with this hookup culture, with this culture of just having casual sex and, no strings attached sex without a relationship. There are enough women who like that and want that men will go out and look for those women because they can have success. Like I said, guys don't care if it's, like I said, if it's just 1% of women, that would be enough. So, most women don't like it and don't want it, and so these men, men who are sometimes called fuckboys, who just go from one woman to another just having casual sex, they get a bad reputation because most women don't like it, but there are enough women who do like it that those guys keep doing it because they keep having success. They can find enough women to make it worth their time. But if you're a guy like I am, who actually wants like a serious, attached, devoted, committed long-term relationship, not just casual sex, I think the odds are actually worse. Again, I grew up with this idea that, guys who just want sex are bad and women want a guy who will love them and commit to them. I think actually that guys who want love, their odds are worse because women don't really want commitment. Women like to have fun. Women want a guy to make them feel good. And if it's about sex, then great, let's have sex. But, a committed relationship where this guy, where I have to spend the rest of my life with this one man, no, that's not for me. I don't want that. That's women's reaction. So women don't really want a relationship just for itself. Like I said, a guy will want to be in a relationship just so he can say, I'm in a relationship. For a man to say, I'm married, is a mark of pride for him. A man is proud if he can say, I'm married, because it shows that, he has a wife. That's something that wife is, you've heard the term trophy wife. Well, for most men, a wife is a trophy in a real way. Like, the man is proud just to have a wife, and he's proud to be able to say, I have a wife, that's my wife over there. For women, it doesn't work that way. For women, it's just like, if the husband doesn't do anything, then she's like, oh, that's my husband, but I don't really like him. He's just a pain in the butt. It sounds romantic at first. I know that for women it sounds, if a woman's never been married before, or if she's never really had like a long-term relationship, it sounds romantic at first to have, you know, a guy that you can go to romantic dinners with and hold hands with and things like that. It sounds good, but it gets old for women very quickly. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've had several relationships, but they don't last very long. If you are a woman who has not been in many relationships yet, you might think that I'm wrong. I've seen this many times, especially younger women who don't have a lot of relationship experience. They'll say, "You're wrong. I want a man. I really sincerely want a man, not for money, not for sex, not to have children with, just to be able to share things with that man." Women think they want that at first, if they haven't really experienced it, but they get tired of it very quickly. Once they've experienced it for a few months, they say, "You know what? I'm kind of over it. Like, it was fun at first. I liked it at first. You know, it was really nice to be able to say, yeah, I have a boyfriend. Wow, something, you know, the novelty of having a boyfriend was really special at first. But now it's like, so what? I don't really care anymore. It doesn't really do anything for me anymore." So if a woman has not been in a relationship before, then I think that in many cases, women will say, "I want a guy because I want romance," and once they get a man, they'll be very happy for a while. They'll say, "You know, this is great. I mean, I finally found this great guy. He's so, you know, he treats me well. He's you know, he's funny, he's intelligent, you know, we go out, we have fun together, you know, I'm so in love." But after a while, like a few months later, women think, well, what now? What are we going to do with the relationship now? I mean, okay, we're together, what do we do now? It's great that the guy treats me nicely, but so what? I don't need to be in a relationship to get that. I can just have friends who treat me nicely. You know, maybe we share things together, but I can do that with friends. I don't need a boyfriend for that. I don't need to be committed to one guy for that. I can do that with anyone. Again, that's the difference between men and women. So I mentioned friends, and I think friends are kind of a woman thing, which might sound odd to say. I'm not saying that men don't have friends, but women value friendship much more. For a woman, being friends with someone is very meaningful. You know, that women love having friends. They like going out with their friends. They love talking with their friends and sharing everything with their friends. And so when women want to do that kind of thing, when women want to have someone to do something with, like to go out to to some place with, to the zoo or whatever, or if they want if they want someone to share an experience with, or to talk to, or to be with, they'd rather just do it with friends. You know, friends are safe. Friends won't try to have sex with you most of the time. Friends don't try to tie you down with some kind of commitment. And what women really hate, apparently, is commitment, you know, a lack of freedom, any kind of restriction on what they can do. Women just love to be able to do whatever they want. The whole idea of personal freedom is kind of a feminine value. I'm not saying that men don't like freedom. Of course, some men do. But I think a man's idea of freedom is different. Men have let's say, a less comprehensive view of freedom. And I don't want to get into this too much because this is a whole other topic. This is more like a political topic. What is freedom? You know, what does liberty mean? Personal liberty. But I mean, in general, a man is okay with being tied to his partner. If he has a woman, like a girlfriend or a wife, he's okay with being tied to that partner. He doesn't feel the need to be free from that partner. Whereas a woman, women hate that. Women hate losing their freedom. I think I said before, women need alone time. This whole idea of time apart or alone time, it's kind of a woman's thing. It's usually women who need time apart. Men do not need that. If a man is tied to a woman, he doesn't mind the loss of personal freedom that comes from being with a woman. A woman does. A woman very much resents that loss of personal freedom. A man does not usually so much. So I guess that's why women don't like commitment and why men want commitment and women don't. And I realize that there are lots of men that don't want commitment, and there are lots of women who do. But again, these are recurring patterns that I see, and I think other people see this as well. Whereas, if a man wants to stay committed to a woman, if a man wants to marry a woman and really wants to be with her, he will probably stay that way. He will probably stay committed to her, whereas a woman will not. A woman will get tired of it after a while. Women want to go out with friends. Even after they're married, they still will have moments when they want to go out with their friends. They want to feel free again. I personally, I know this it sounds weird to say, I personally don't feel much need for personal freedom. I mean, freedom to do what? I don't do anything anyway. I hardly ever go out. I hardly ever do anything with my life. I don't really feel a great need for personal freedom in my life because it doesn't... I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want to be in prison, like I wouldn't want to go to jail for something, but I do not feel that my life is negatively impacted if I have a woman in my life whom I need to plan my life around. If I want to go somewhere and I have a girlfriend, I probably should ask my girlfriend, do you want to come with me? And then if she's busy, might have to plan a time when we go out together. That's a little bit less convenient, but I don't feel like my life is terribly negatively impacted by the inconvenience of having to plan a time to go out with my girlfriend, because being with her is meaningful. It's meaningful enough that it's worth taking like 2 minutes to call her on the phone and say, do you want to go out? Women don't like that. Women are like, oh, I don't like the inconvenience of having to plan my life around a man. I just want to go where I want, whenever I want to do it, and I don't like that the guy gets in the way. Yeah, so that's again, another difference between men and women. Guys don't really mind the loss of their personal freedom that much most of the time. Women do. And that's why so many people do the friends with benefits thing, where it's like the relationship is basically just a friendship except with people who have sex. So it's like they satisfy their sexual needs, but other than that, they're still friends. There's no commitment. There's nothing really outside of friendship except that they happen to have sex. If that works for you, I guess some people are happy just being friends who have sex. If you're okay with that, then sure, okay. But it seems to me that arrangement long-term is usually not very satisfactory for men or women. Both of them kind of don't want to stay in that kind of relationship for very long. Speaking of friends with benefits, there's that movie. It's called Friends with Benefits with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis in it. And there's that line in the movie. There's that one moment where they're talking about what happens after the happily ever after. They're watching a movie. They're watching some romantic movie on TV or whatever. And fairy tales end with the line, and they lived happily ever after. And there's this sort of idea that, okay, once the man and the woman come together, then that's it. Love begins and happiness will ensue forever. But the problem is, love stories end when the love is just beginning. So it's great. You have this lovely conclusion where these people come together, and then, the two lovers kiss, and they agree to get married or whatever. That's very sweet. It's very nice. But in Friends with Benefits, the woman asks, why don't they ever make a movie that shows what happens afterwards? What happens after that initial sort of attraction and the sort of coming together happens? And the guy replies, the guy says, they do. It's called porn. I guess it's supposed to be a joke. I guess he's kind of joking, like it's meant to be a joke in the movie. But the line kind of sticks with me because it's a valid question. What do you do after that? I think it's a very important question. What do you do after that? The initial attraction of falling in love is wonderful. Developing this attraction to a person and coming together with them and, hugging and kissing and all this, it's wonderful. But what happens after that? That's the key question. That's the question that I think a lot of people don't bother to answer. And you can't really answer it because you can't really plan a whole relationship. Let's say that you and I start a relationship now. Should we plan now what we're going to do every day for the rest of our lives? If I live for another 30, 40 years, or maybe even more than that if I'm lucky, should we plan every day? No, you really don't. You kind of have to do it spontaneously. There has to be some spontaneity in a relationship. And so you really don't know what's going to happen. But the problem then is eventually people hit a wall where they say, we've done everything. We've gone to every movie that's playing at the theater. We've gone to every concert that's in town right now. We've gone to every art gallery and museum that exists where we live. There's not really a lot left to do. We've kind of done it all. What's left now? We've found out everything about each other. We know each other's favorite color and movie and song and book and whatever. And, what are we going to do now? So that's a valid question. It's a line that sticks with me because I realize it's a very valid question. Why don't they ever show you what happens afterwards, after the fact, after that initial sort of happily ever after? Because that's often when things start to fall apart. The beginning of the relationship is often right when things start to fall apart, when people realize, this was nice, this act of falling in love was lovely, but after that, there's not much after that. So, and sure, you can have sex, but you can have sex anytime. You can have sex without a relationship. So if it's just about sex, then what do you need a relationship for? Go to the movies. You can go to the movies with friends. Again, that's something that women like to do. Women like to go with friends. If you want to build a household together, do things like, I talked about like washing the dishes together or whatever. That's something you can do with a housemate. You don't need a spouse for that. So what do you do after happily ever after? What do you do with your spouse that you couldn't do with a friend or a housemate or a friend with benefits? And I'm going to return now to my idea, what is love? Because I talked before about what is love. People usually describe love as a feeling. And I did too. To be fair, I described love as the feeling of wanting to be with somebody. I also described love as an emotion. But there are different kinds of love. And if you're talking about a real long-lasting kind of love, then I think that it might be useful to define love not in terms of how it makes you feel, but in terms of how long it lasts. I'm of the opinion, at least for me, if I really love somebody, love never ends. It never stops for me. You saw it before. If you watched the previous videos in this series, I started talking about an ex of mine who survived a suicide attempt. That happened years and years ago. That happened well over 10 years ago. And I still started crying about it, remembering it now, because that person is still very significant in my memory. Whenever I remember that person, I remember emotions that were shared with that person. And I cannot say that I ever fell out of love with that person. I never stopped feeling that way about that person. I just realized that that person is probably somebody who shouldn't be with me. Probably I probably was not able to take care of her in the way that she needed me to be taken care of. But I don't think that love ever ended. Ever. And probably never will. So, to me, that's part of love. Real love never comes to an end. If you love somebody for like 2 months, this is kind of a typical thing that's happened to me several times. Not that I love somebody, somebody loves me for like 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months, whatever. And then suddenly they just say, I'm not feeling it anymore. I'm done. I expected something different. I thought it would last longer. I thought somehow my feelings would last longer. But I'm done. I'm not feeling it anymore. I don't want to continue this. I want to end it. I would make the perhaps bold claim that maybe that wasn't love. Maybe love is not defined by the intensity of the feeling, but by how long it lasts. And the problem with saying something like that, the problem with this idea is you won't know, you cannot know how long you will feel a certain way. And I think that's, I think I said in a recent video, you can't know how you will feel. You might know how you feel now, you might know how you felt in the past, before, but you cannot know how you will feel in the future. And that's one of the big reasons why breakups happen, because people think, I will feel this way for the rest of my life, but they don't. Their feelings change after a while, and you can feel very attracted to somebody. People can love very intensely, very strongly, passionately, and they think, okay, this has to be love because I feel it so strongly. But a few months later, they don't feel it anymore. And I don't think that was really true love, because I don't think that true love really ever ends. And this is why I say that I think that women don't really love men, because women don't really stay in love for that long. Generally, there are certainly women who feel attraction to men. I'm not denying that women sometimes feel attracted to men. There's no doubt about that. But it usually doesn't last very long. And it's really shocking to me sometimes how people kind of deceive themselves. Like, I've lost count of how many women have said something to me, something like, I love you, this is forever. I will feel this way about you forever. I promise you my feelings will never change. And, I would try to sometimes, bring some realism, some sort of rationality into the discussion by saying, you don't know that. You don't know how long you'll feel this way. I tend to be skeptical when people say things like that because they don't know that. And so I'll say, I understand how you feel now. I'm not doubting your feelings now, but you cannot know how you will feel a year from now or even a few months from now. And invariably they will say, no, I'm sure. I'm sure I won't change my mind. I know my heart. I know how I feel. Nothing will change how I feel. And then a few months later she'll say, oh, I changed my mind. I don't feel anything for you anymore. My feelings changed. Somehow my feelings just went away. Time and time again, it happens to me. It's happened so many times. I've literally lost count of how many times it's happened to me. And I don't want to accuse these people. I don't want to say that they were lying, because I guess they were probably sincere. They just didn't know. They just didn't know that their feelings would change. So, it's not necessarily lying if you really think that you mean it. But they were just wrong. They were simply wrong. They thought that they would feel this way forever, and they did not. for whatever reason, for one reason or another, or, like I said, perhaps for several reasons, because usually when people break up, there's not just one big reason, there's probably several reasons. I had a girlfriend who had kind of a history of doing stuff like that. Like she had a history of being with guys for like a few months at a time and then just getting tired of them. And when I heard her relationship history, I told her, I don't think you've ever really been in love in your life. I don't think you've ever truly loved anyone in your life, just from the way that she described her relationship past history. And she got really angry with me. She became very upset, and she said, I don't think you really understand me. I don't think that you understand. If you feel that way, like if you really think that I've never loved anyone, then you're wrong. You really don't understand me because you're wrong. I have loved people. And I didn't want to argue with her, but I kind of told her, I understand you've had sincere feelings. I'm not saying that you don't have feelings for men, for your boyfriends, but those feelings didn't last very long. You were very attracted to a guy for like a few months, and then your feelings just suddenly stopped. I don't think that's love. Again, people say they're in love, but to me, real love never ends. True love is not something that will just suddenly stop. You won't just suddenly say, oh, I don't love that person anymore. Just my feelings change suddenly. So if you define love that way, like if you define love in terms of its longevity, not in terms of how intense or passionate the feeling is, but in terms of how long it lasts, then again, that takes me back to the conclusion that women don't love men. Men love women, women don't love men. And again, a man is likely to see a relationship as a commitment, as a promise that he wants to stick to just because of principles, just because it's a commitment. So, when people get married, they make a promise. What do people say when they get married? Till death do us part. We promise to be, to love each other, to love and hold each other until we die. And after people get married, men are likely to remember that and say, remember the promise we made. We made a promise to each other. We'll stay together until we die. And just that principle, the idea of this, the relationship in itself, it becomes sort of, like I said before, it's an end in itself. It's a self-justifying thing for men to have that marriage, to have that relationship. Whereas women will say, but I'm not happy. The reason why I got married was because I thought it would make me happy. But it's not working. It doesn't make me happy, so why would I stay in the marriage if it doesn't make me happy? Men will say, we made a promise. Women will say, well, who cares about the promise? The point of the marriage is to make me happy, and if it doesn't do that, then I'm not going to stay. I don't care about the promise. I don't care about the commitment. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in a relationship, in a situation that makes me unhappy. That's, again, difference between men and women. Now, you might think that this is a very misogynistic thing to say. Again, I think I said at the beginning, I don't hate women, but it might sound like I do from what I'm saying about them. I'm not just speaking from my personal opinions or experiences. I'm not just saying that women are dishonest or they can't be trusted or they're going to break their promises. I'm speaking from statistics. If you look up statistics on divorce, there are statistics on who initiates a divorce. When couples get divorced, who starts it, the woman or the man, the wife or the husband. At least in the U.S., it's hard to speak for the whole world because a lot of countries don't keep statistics like this, but at least in the U.S., you can find, again, I didn't bother to look up articles and things like that for this video, but if you look it up on Google or whatever, you can very easily find articles that make it clear. In the U.S., more than 2/3, about 70% of divorces are initiated by the woman. That means a wife is more than twice as likely as a husband to start a divorce, to say, I want a divorce, and start divorce proceedings. So it's not just my own idea that women are less committed to marriage than men. It's statistically shown that most divorces are initiated by the woman, not by the man. And like I said, I don't have statistics for the whole world, but this is generally true not only in the U.S. but also in in most world countries. In most world countries, a woman is much more likely than a man to want a divorce. A man will try to stick with the marriage and make it work, whereas the woman will just want to leave the marriage if it doesn't make her happy. And by the way, this becomes even more clear for same-sex marriages. So there are some countries where same-sex, gay marriage, is legal and recognized. And in countries where gay marriage, where same-sex marriage exists, is recognized by the government, lesbian marriages, marriages between two women, have divorce rates that are double or even more than double divorce rates for marriages between two men. So that, I think, makes it really clear. Two men in a marriage are much more likely to stay together than a heterosexual couple. And a heterosexual couple is more likely to stay together than two women in a marriage. So most divorces are started by women. Divorce is kind of... I'm not saying that men never want divorce. Men also sometimes want to get divorced. Again, generalizations. Men are different. Not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. But in general, when you have a heterosexual marriage with a man and a woman, the woman will usually be willing to give up on the marriage before the man is. Because the man will want the woman to stay with him just for the sake of having the woman with him in the marriage. And the woman will say, no, I don't want to stay here if it's not making me happy, if it's not fulfilling me, I'm going to leave. So this idea that men are unfaithful, I don't think it's true. Or if it's true, it's more true for women than for men. I'm not saying that all men are faithful. I'm not saying that men never cheat. I'm not saying that men never want to break up or initiate a breakup. Of course they do. But I think it's more true for women than for men. By a fairly, not just by a little bit, but by a fairly statistically significant margin, it's much more true for women that women will want to leave than for men. And again, if you don't believe me, look up divorce statistics. They're on the internet. You can find statistics for divorce in many different countries. You can find statistics on same-sex marriage and same-sex divorce. You'll see that women divorce each other much more than men do. So, what do women really want in a relationship? I mean, if I look at myself and I ask myself, what could I have done better since women keep leaving me? What could I have done better to make women stay? Like I said before, I think a lot of it's just sex and money. And I don't really have either of those, which is one of my big problems. Probably one of the reasons why women don't stay with me. Because again, I'm not like impotent or anything like that. Like I'm not incapable of having sex. I just don't have a very strong sex drive. It's not something that really interests me that much. I think compared to most men, most men, I'm like in a very bottom percentile of men when it comes to sex drive. Because usually men are the hornier ones. Usually men are the ones who really want sex, as I said before. So I'm like I don't know what percentile I'm in, but I'm pretty sure, like I've never gotten tested or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that I'm in some quite low percentile in terms of wanting sex. Just because I don't. I mean, I don't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I need to have sex. I want to have sex." It's just not something that really happens to me. If I'm in a situation which is sexually exciting, okay, maybe I mean, I have had sex. I'm not a virgin. I'm capable of having sex. It's just not something that I really think about or seek out most of the time. It's not something that really drives me. I don't feel motivated by having sex. And when I'm attracted to a woman, my motivation in being attracted to her is not to have sex with her most of the time. I mean, maybe there were some exceptions, but in most cases, my motivation was because I wanted to be with that woman, to share my life with her, and not just to perform the physical, mechanical act of copulation with her. And the other thing, like I said, the other thing that women want is money. Now, obviously money is a big thing. I think statistically, money is the single biggest cause of divorce, at least in Western countries. I don't know about the rest of the world. It's not that you have to be rich, but I understand a woman wants stability. Which is not unreasonable. You want to have some sense of safety and security and stability. A woman at least wants to have the feeling that she's not going to suddenly have the rug pulled out from under her constantly. And that's always been a problem with me because I am not financially stable. I'm not good at finding work. I'm not good at keeping work. I work in IT, like I'm a computer guy, IT guy. And a lot of people have this idea that IT guys are IT people, they're not only guys, there are women who work in IT as well, that IT people are very well paid, they're highly paid, and that they have good job security. I don't agree with that. That's not true. Certainly some of them are well paid. Some of them are, but not all of them. I am not. And they don't have job security. I don't think that job security is very prevalent in IT because it's the nature of IT to change. It's the nature of that industry that it's always, kind of evolving and changing and taking on different forms. And so technologies that were important in the past become less important, at least less less profitable in the future. And so things that you did in the past are not necessarily going to get you a job in the future. And, if you're a developer, like if you're making something, if you're building something, that's great. But what happens when you're done? When you're done building it, it's done. There's no more work. Once you've built up some software program or some infrastructure or whatever, it's done. And you're not going to get paid for just you're not going to keep getting paid for having done something. You're only paid for the time that you spent building it. When it's built, when you're done, you're not going to get paid anymore. So there are some exceptions. I mean, there are some people who do very well in IT. I'm not. I have not really done that well in my career. I think in general, if you're an IT worker in a Western country, it's difficult to really have job security, and it's difficult to get paid a lot because, there are people in India who will do your job for less. I realize there are certain types of work that are harder to offshore. There are certain types of work that are still paid pretty well. I'm not in one of them. So I have never really been very financially stable. I've never been homeless. I've never really been so long-term unemployed that I've been at risk of really like becoming homeless and becoming totally destitute. But I am not a rich guy. I have never been a rich guy, never will be, probably. And so women see that and they think, well, what kind of future will I have with this guy? It's okay. It's nice that the guy has a job. It's better than nothing. But if his work is not stable, if he's at risk of losing his job at any moment, which I am, because again, when there's no more work, like when the work is done, then the work is done, and that's it. get laid off when there's no more work to be done. Then I have to look for a new job, but it's stressful. It's stressful to always have to look for new jobs and find new projects, new activities, new things that are being done. It doesn't create a good sense of long-term stability. And indeed, I don't have long-term, like I said, I've never been financially stable, probably never will be. And so, women see that, and they think, how can this guy support a family? If I want to have children, how's this going to support our family when he can't hold down steady employment? There's this ideal that love is blind, and that you should love the person for themselves, and money shouldn't come into it. You should be able to love a person who's financially poor because of their personal qualities rather than how much money they have. But that's kind of a fairy tale. It's a sweet idea. Don't get me wrong, I understand the idea, and I like the idea, but I understand when people say, I want stability in life. I want some kind of sense of hope for the future. I want some kind of sense that I can count on being, financially stable a year from now or 5 years from now. That's not something I can really promise a woman. I can't really promise a woman that in 5 years I'll still be financially solvent. And so, if a woman is, or not only a woman, if any person, if you're married to somebody who's always jumping from one job to another because they can't keep down a job, it's very unsettling. It makes you feel very very insecure about your future, and people don't want to have to live with that uncertainty for the rest of their lives. Okay, so I'm going to start summing up now. I guess I've made my main points. I'm going to start summing up some things. In general, when it comes to dating, I guess you can divide women into 3 categories roughly. So one category is she has no interest in dating. I think statistically, at least in the US now, like half of single people intend to stay single. They have no interest in not being single. They have no interest in dating or trying to stop being single. So there are a lot of people who are single but plan to stay that way, at least for the foreseeable future. So, there's the woman who just says, I'm happy being single. I don't need a man, don't want a man in my life. I don't need the complications and the obligations that come from having a boyfriend. I just want to have fun, enjoy my life, no interest in a relationship. Okay, that's one type of woman. The second type of woman is, like I said, the woman who wants a man for things like typically money and or children. She obviously likes having money, likes to be able to use a man for his money. She likes the stability that comes from having a rich boyfriend or husband. And if she wants children, she'll probably want to have a father for those children, and so she wants to have children with the guy. In other words, she doesn't really love the man. She doesn't love the man for himself. She loves what he makes possible for her life. She loves that he fills her life with money and children, but she doesn't actually love the man himself. She wouldn't want to be with a man if it was just the guy. If you take the children and the money out of the equation, she'd say, no, I don't want to be with that man. I don't want to just be with a man just for the sake of being with a man. And then the third type of woman is the one who actually does want to be with a man. She actually, has this ideal of true love and wants to, actually, share love with a man just for the sake of being with a man. Those women in that last category will probably change their minds. Those are usually women who, I think I said before, they don't have a lot of experience with dating. They're still kind of new to it, and so they don't realize how much their feelings will change after a little while. A lot of women think they want to love a man. There are lots of women who will tell me, I'm wrong. No, you don't get it. I really do want a man in my life, not for money or for children, but just to have a man. But once they get that, they will typically change their minds. And by the way, this is something that I've seen all over the world. Let me tell you something. If you're a Western man, there's this kind of thing going around now, this idea that among Western men, like men from the USA and Canada and to some extent also Western Europe, a lot of these men, these Western men sort of think that, we've heard this idea so many times that feminism has destroyed women, and they tend to kind of idealize foreign cultures and think that women in other countries are more, women in non-Western cultures are more faithful. Because, Western women have been taught to hate men or whatever, to hate commitment, and they've been taught, feminism and that. Let me tell you something. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. And in fact, I think Western women are probably some of the most faithful women in the world. Because at least in the West, you have this ideal that a woman should love a man. I know it doesn't seem that way if you're a Western man, because you keep hearing about feminism and how feminism is destroying dating and it's making women independent and it's making women learn to hate men and not want men in their lives. I've seen the other side of the coin. A lot of Western guys idealize Eastern cultures and think that Eastern traditions are somehow the solutions to our problems. A lot of Western guys now are idealizing especially Russian women. There's this idea that Russian women are very faithful, and Russian women, are just like really committed to guys and will do anything for their man and will take care of their man and will, go to Russia and you'll just find like millions of women desperate to marry you. That's not true at all. First of all, I lived in Russia for a year, and I did not have a single case of a woman sincerely wanting to be with me. I had one woman who wanted to marry me for migration purposes because she wanted to leave Russia, and she said, I might need your help in moving to another country. Okay, thanks. That's very flattering that a woman wants to marry me for my passport. That's nice. And I dated one woman who I approached myself. Like, I asked her out. She didn't, initially have any interest in me. So this idea that you go to Russia and women are just climbing all over you, it's not true. This idea that Russian women are faithful to their husbands, not true. Look at the statistics. Again, we have all these conceptions, these sort of cultural ideas that have been sort of built into us by hearsay or whatever. Look at the statistics on divorce. Look at divorce rates in different countries. Russia is, I think, in the top 5 countries in the world for divorce statistics. We've heard in the West, at least I heard some years ago, this often repeated statistic that in the US, about half of marriages end in divorce. So like around 50% of marriages will end in divorce. And we thought that was a lot. In Russia, 70 to 80% of marriages end in divorce. And again, those divorces are usually initiated by the woman. The woman gets married because she's been taught, Russian women, or Russian girls, when they're young, they're taught that marriage will make you happy. Get married as soon as possible, marriage will make you happy. They get married to the first guy who will marry them, and they're not happy. They're not happy in the marriage. They get divorced, and they probably will never marry again because they had such a bad experience. Their first marriage was such a bad experience because they were kind of rushed into it. They felt pressured into getting married by their society and their family. They had such a bad experience, they said, I'll never get married again. I've seen this time and time again. I know a lot of Russian people, and a lot of Russian women say, I so regret getting married. I was told that being married would make me happy. It didn't make me happy. It just made everything worse. I got divorced as soon as I could. I never want to get married again. So this idea that Russian women are faithful to their husbands, not true. Absolutely a total lie. Russia has, again, among the highest divorce rates in the world. What about other places like even the Middle East? My goodness. I think in Asia it's even worse. Women just date for money. You talk to women from countries like Afghanistan, for example. I mean, again, I mentioned Afghanistan is a very anti-feminist kind of country. It's probably one of the worst countries to be a woman in the world. But even in Afghanistan, like, women just want a man for money, or in Iran. Like, I've never been to Afghanistan, but I know a lot of people from Iran. I actually went to Iran on vacation last year. I know some people there, both men and women. And even women in Iran, which is like a very anti-feminist kind of state, women there just say, I just want a guy for money. Why would I want to marry a man for love? I mean, I don't need that. I just want a rich man. I just want a man to shower me with money so I can have a rich lifestyle. That's all I want. And in East Asia, my goodness, I mean, China, I've never had a Chinese girlfriend, but I, talk to some people who are Chinese or who are familiar with Chinese culture, and they say, like, if you date a Chinese woman, that's literally like the first thing she asks. How much money do you make? It's literally the first thing that comes into it, and that will decide whether she dates you or not. That's all they care about. So this idea of, of loving a man, the idea of a woman loving a man and marrying a man for love is like totally foreign to Chinese culture. So, and it's similar in other places. I mean, like, Eastern Europe, I mean, Slovakia. I dated a couple of Slovak women. It went the same way. It was like, once they realized that, I wasn't rich and wasn't going to give them this lifestyle that they wanted, it ended very quickly. So, this idea that Eastern women are somehow more faithful, it's wrong. It's just a wrong idea. It's just an idea that, I guess it's kind of this whole idea of the grass is always greener on the other side. Western men think, well, things are going so badly in Western countries, we'll find more faithful women in Asia, Asian women or Russian women or I don't know what. That's wrong. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. Women all over the world are pretty much this same way. They want a man for something. They don't just want to be with a man. They don't want to just love a man just for the sake of love. They want a man for money or to start a family with. Just being with a man just for the sake of romance, no, doesn't happen. I think that happens more in American culture than in most other world cultures. So if you think that America is bad because women are too feminist, you'll find that women's expectations in other parts of the world are even higher. So yeah, that's why I say this is the difference between men and women. It's biological. Some people will say this is cultural. These things I'm talking about. Some people will say, well, this is because people were raised in a certain culture and they're raised with these cultural expectations. Okay, culture plays some role. Yes, social expectations play some role. I won't deny that. But in every world culture, on every continent, you see the same pattern. Women don't really love men. Women don't really want to be with a man. If they want to be with a man, it's for money or often for migration. Like if it's a Western man, then they'll want to marry him to get out of their country and move to a wealthy Western country or something like that. There's some utilitarian sort of ulterior motive behind it. It's not love. It's not based on love. It's not that the woman really wants to be with the man. And again, or if they maybe they want children, they want the man just for his sperm so they can have children. They do not want a husband because they're in love. It does not happen. So that's why I say this is something biological. It's not something cultural. It's not just something that people are taught, because you see it in every world culture. It is prevalent in every place in the world. And that's why I say it's something biological. It's a biological difference between males and females. It's not just something that people are taught when they're children. So, yeah. What can I say? I think that if you're a man who wants a woman to love you, culturally, your best bet is probably English-speaking countries. The USA, Canada, Ireland, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Those are the big English-speaking countries in the world. Those are probably your best bets because at least there's a sense that it should be fair. At least there's a sense that, okay, if men are going to do something for women, then women should at least, to some degree, express some kind of love and affection for their husband. In other countries, there's not even that. In other countries, it's just like, yeah, the husband's there for money. He's there to get me pregnant. He's there to give us money. What else? What else is he for? So, again, that's the difference between men and women. Okay, so you have a lot of women who have been raised with kind of fairy tale ideas. They've been taught that marriage will make you happy. You should get married as soon as possible because that's what will make you happy. In some cultures where there are not the same age restrictions as in, more, let's say, developed industrial countries, marriage can happen at almost any age. I see, unfortunately, stories of women getting married when they're literally like 12 years old or sometimes even younger than that. I had a friend in Iran who told me that many young women in Iran get divorced when they're 15 or 16. Imagine that, getting divorced, not married, but divorced when you're 15. So you have a lot of women who are raised with these unrealistic ideas that marriage is the thing to do. It'll make you happy, and then so they get married at a very young age because they think that's what'll fulfill them. Guess what? It doesn't make them happy. They get disappointed. They get divorced, and then what happens then? If women are, it depends on the person. If a woman is kind of, let's say, intelligent and independent-minded and kind of can think for herself, she'll typically get soured on the idea of marriage. Like I said before, this happens very often in Russia. Russian women will get married when they're young. They'll find out that they don't like it. They'll get divorced. And they'll probably never get married again because they said, yeah, my first marriage sucked. I don't want to do that again. Alternatively, you have a lot of women who keep trying again, and this gets maybe even worse. They go through this kind of cycle where like they keep trying and trying again, and they think somehow it's going to be different next time. They get into one relationship after another, and they never seem to realize it's not working. I should be doing something different. They just keep trying and thinking somehow, well, this time it will be different. I have a friend who's a young woman. I've known her for a few years. When I first met her, she often talked about how sad she was that she didn't have a boyfriend. She would say, all I really want in my life is a boyfriend. Women just want this one very simple thing. Women really just want to be able to love a man. And even something so simple, so fundamental has been denied me because nobody wants to date me. I kind of saw what was coming, and I kind of tried to warn her. I think I kind of told her, you might change your mind later. And she said, no, I'm a woman. I just want to love a man. I just want to feel like a woman. I just want to be with a guy. That's all I want. And I thought, okay, well, you're probably going to have some problems, but okay, you have to, live your life. And so now it's a few years later. I recently found out she's broken up with her fiance. So she found a guy that that liked her, and she liked him. And they did the whole thing, and they got engaged, and they were already planning their wedding. They invited me to their wedding, and recently they just broke up. She just suddenly said, I don't want to marry him anymore. And I wasn't really Wasn't really sure what happened at first. I guess they got into a fight, and the guy was really upset. The guy actually came to me and asked me, "Can you please talk to her? Maybe try to change her mind, because I can't believe that she just changed her mind so suddenly." And I did. I talked to her and I asked her, are you sure about this? Are you sure you want to call off the wedding? Because I think the guy's pretty serious. Like, the guy really wants to marry you, and he's not kidding around. Like, I think he's pretty serious. He really does want to marry you. And she said, yeah, I'm sure. I don't like his financial situation. I don't like that he doesn't have any money. I mean, if we have children, then how's he going to take care of our children? Stuff like that. She'd been crying and pleading for years to have a man in her life. And she didn't really give much in the way of requirements. Like, I asked her, what kind of guy you're looking for? And she said, I'm not picky, I just... Okay, well, she got what she wanted. She got what she'd been wanting for so long. She got a guy who asked her to marry him. And then she just suddenly said, well, I don't like he doesn't have enough money. I don't like his life situation. She never talked about any of those things before. She never talked before about, well, the guy has to have money, he has to have, whatever. She just said, I just want a man. I just have this simple, fundamental woman's need to love a man. That's all I want. And all these qualifications that the guy was supposed to have, she never talked about that until later, until she actually got a man. And then when she actually got a fiancé who wanted to marry her, then suddenly she bailed out and said, no, I'm not happy with this and that. I expected something different. So this kind of thing happens a lot. Women think, when they're alone, women think they want a boyfriend so badly they just want to be with anyone. They would take anyone, but nobody loves them. And then when they finally, when a guy suddenly shows up, the woman's like, no, he's not my type. No, I don't want to be with him. He's not, meh. So this idea that women really want to be with a man is wrong. I know a lot of women will say, I want to be with a man. I want to, women will say this, and women have said this to me as well. I've gone through this, like I've said, I've gone through the same cycle countless times where women have told me, I want to be with you, and I'm like, are you sure? Because, like, I'll try to ask them some questions. Like I'll say, okay, why? Why do you want to be with me as opposed to, any other man, as opposed to the 4 billion other men in the world? And they'll often say, I like your voice, for example. Thank you. It's nice that you like my voice. That's great. On the one hand, it's flattering. On the other hand, we're not going to have a lasting, happy, successful marriage because you like my voice. That's not going to, I'm sorry. Thank you, but that's not enough. And it's not that I don't want to be with these, it's not like I'm not saying that I don't want to be with these people. I'm just saying, I'm predicting, and I'm usually correctly predicting, they will probably change their minds later. And when I've given women a chance, like when I've said, okay, let's give it a try, let's see how it works out, in most cases, I was right. It was the woman who said, I was wrong, you're not the guy for me, I kind of got the wrong idea. So, what can I say? Again, and most women, after a while, they kind of give up. They realize it's not working. They just give up. They have these unrealistic expectations. They say, I want love to be like in some Disney movie, some fairy tale, and if I can't have that, then I'd rather be alone. If it can't be like Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella, then I'd rather just be alone. It seems to me that women like to fantasize a lot. They like to live in dreams. They like to live in unrealistic fantasies. It's not bad to fantasize. It's not bad to have dreams. But if you want to turn your dreams into reality, if you're the kind of person who wants to turn your fantasies into reality, they have to be somehow realistic fantasies. They have to be fantasies that have some kind of relationship to reality, some kind of way that you could turn them real. If you have these fantasies that are just basically impossible, just completely unrealistic, that go completely counter to human nature and how human beings live, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So women are very romantic sometimes. Women do often have these ideas about love and how it should work. But they'd rather just live in their fantasies than in reality. They'd rather just live in their dream worlds than actually try to turn it into reality. I know a woman, and now it's going to get a bit dramatic because this is a woman I'm still in contact with. This is a woman who's been telling me for years and years that she loves me and wants to marry me. I know she's going to watch this video. In fact, she might actually say something in the comments. But if she doesn't say something in the comments, I know she's going to send me a message. She's going to send me a message after she watches this video. She's been saying for years and years that she wants to marry me, but it's online. It's over the internet, and yeah, she lives in another country. I'm not going to say where, but she lives in another country that's far enough away that we can't see each other regularly, easily. And it's not easy for me to visit her because I have to work full time. So, it's hard for me to get time off work and go and, see her. So I asked her to come see me because it's easier for her to schedule time off work. It's easier, theoretically, for her to come see me. But whenever I ask her to visit me, she just says, I will. When? I will. I'll do it. I'll look into booking a ticket. I'll come see you sometime. But now let's just act romantic. Let's just be romantic together on over the internet. Whenever the talk actually comes to actually planning a trip, like actually booking tickets, she'll say, "Oh, it's not convenient now. We'll plan it later. Let's worry about that later." When her passport ran, like eventually her passport expired, and I said, "You'll need to get a passport too." She said, "Oh, it's not convenient now to get a passport. It's just such a hassle. I got to go to the passport place. I got to fill out a form. Oh, it's just so inconvenient. Yeah, I'll do it sometime, but I'm not gonna. Yeah." And this went on for months. I finally just gave up. I finally stopped telling her to get a new passport because she wouldn't do it. She just kept saying, "Yeah, I'll do it. It's just so inconvenient. It's so hard to get a passport." And this has been going on for years. This has been going on for years and years. And like I said, I know she's watching this. She's going to watch this, and she's going to probably pop up in the comments and say something like, "That's not true. That's not true that you never left anyone. You say you never left your partners, but you left me." I'm sure she's going to say that. If she doesn't say it in a YouTube comment, she's going to say it in a private message to me. She's going to say, "That's not true. You left me. You say you never left your partners, but you left me." Well, I didn't leave her. We were never together in the first place. We never lived in the same country. Every time I ask her to come see me, she says, "I will." And then she says, "But first, tell me that you want to marry me. Say nice things to me. Tell me how we're going to get married." And I've known this woman for 12 years, actually more than 12 years now, like 12 and a half years now. And it's been going on like that. And every time I talk to her, she says, "Well, when are we going to get married? When are you going to say that you want to marry me?" And I'll say, "You need to come to see me first. We need to have some way that we can come together." "Oh, but I just want to get married. Just tell me that you want to marry me and buy me a diamond ring." It goes on like that. I mean, I didn't leave her. I gave up because I realized that she's just living in these kinds of fantasies. And I wouldn't normally want to expose these private details of my personal relationships. Like I find it kind of tacky when a person talks about the details of their personal relationship in public. But I'm saying this here because I know that she's going to make it public. If I don't say this, she's going to probably pop up in the comments and call me a liar and say that, and make drama about it. So I'm saying this because I'm anticipating that she's probably going to say that because that's what she does. So, long distance is okay for a start. I'm not necessarily opposed to starting a long distance relationship with somebody whom I know over the internet. I knew my first wife for 3 years on the internet before we actually, got together physically and started making things happen. And then we got married after that. But I knew her we had like an online relationship for 3 years before we got married. I'm willing to, put in the time and wait for things to become possible for the right person, as long as there's a plan that it will become not long distance at some point in the future. I'm not going to do long distance forever. Long distance is okay to start with, but at some point it should become, an in-person relationship. But like I said, this has been going on for 12 years now, and every time it's just like, oh, when are we going to get married? Tell me you want to marry me. And when I say, well, when are you going to come see me first? Before we get married, when are you going to book a plane ticket? And she says, oh, I will. I will later, but first promise me that you'll marry me. No, I'm not going to promise to marry someone who can't even be bothered to get a passport for herself, who thinks it's too inconvenient to get a passport for herself. If it's that inconvenient just to like fill out a passport form and file it and pay like whatever a passport costs, if that's that inconvenient for you, then how are you going to put up with the inconvenience of a relationship? Because a relationship does bring with it some amount of inconvenience. A relationship brings, like I said before, you have to plan around your partner now. A relationship comes necessarily with some amount of stress, some amount of conflict, some amount of inconvenience. And you'll live with that. You'll put up with that stress and inconvenience if you love that person, because being with that person is worth it. It's worth that inconvenience. If it's so inconvenient that you're not even willing to get a passport to be with that person, then that's a sign that you're not in love. So to that person who I know is watching, I didn't leave you. You've been promising me for years to come and see me, and I know that it's not love. I will assert here that you do not love me if you're not willing to go through the inconvenience of getting a passport. You want these kind of online fantasies, and you want me to tell you how much I want to marry you, but you're not willing to do anything for it. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's the truth. So yeah, I don't really understand. Yeah, I'll tell. I know I said it's kind of tacky for me to share personal experiences with ex-partners, but I'll just say one thing that happened with a woman that I was dating. There was this one woman that I was dating who, it started off really well. Like we had similar interests, we had similar kind of lifestyles and things like that. So it seemed to be going really well. We really seemed to like each other. She invited me to her parents' house to meet her parents, and I had the impression that when that happens, it's kind of serious. It's like, when you're inviting your partner to meet your parents, that's a sign that it's pretty serious. That's like one step before asking for the parents' blessing for a wedding. So I thought, okay, this is getting pretty serious. Yeah, I went to her parents' house. We, had lunch with her parents. We met and, ate lunch together. It was very nice, very pleasant. And I thought, this is really getting serious now. I'm getting ready to ask her parents if they accept me as their possible future son-in-law. But after I met her parents, she just suddenly told me that evening, I'm not in love. I've been in love before, and this isn't it. That was it. And I never saw her again after that. And I later found out that her parents' house had been, it was almost like a revolving door. Like she had taken so many guys to meet her parents. I was far from the first. She and her parents had lost count of how many guys had gone through that house. So it wasn't like it was something special. It wasn't like I was somehow the first guy that she was that serious about. She took like every guy she could meet to meet her parents. So, and she just suddenly said, yeah, I'm not in love. Sorry, it's not working out. I don't understand what she was expecting. I don't know what she thought would happen. Like if she introduced so many guys to her parents, maybe someday it would click. Like like the, that infinite monkey theorem, the idea that if you have an infinite number of monkeys typing on an infinite number of typewriters, they'll eventually write all the great works of literature. I guess she had the idea that if she just took the same approach to dating, just go through this whole process with countless guys, that somehow, someday it's just going to work out. I don't know. The last time I talked to her, she said she had an internet boyfriend now who lives in some other country again, and she barely talks, she hardly ever talks to him, but he's her boyfriend. I don't know. I doubt that it lasted very long. So, yeah. Okay, I think this will be my last segment. I think I can start to finish up now and put everything together. So yeah, again, in the end, like I said, I think I've said it countless times now. I think the point is pretty clear. That the main difference between men and women in dating is that men just want to be with a woman, and that experience of being with a woman is good enough for the man. Like, that's all the man needs. He just needs the woman to be there with him. Whereas a woman needs to be impressed somehow. She wants the guy to impress her with something, I don't know what. Or else the guy needs to be rich or something like that. And if he doesn't have anything special about him, then she'll just get bored of him, break up with him soon. I think sometimes about Dido's song, Thank You, one of her best-known songs, and the chorus of the song says something like, "Oh, just to be with you is the best day of my life," something like, or is having the best day of my life. So this is that idea that I was talking about. Just to be with you. That's a man's sentiment. A man will say, just to be with you makes my life meaningful. It's not a woman's sentiment. But there are a lot of songs that say things like this because those songs are made for men, because men will actually believe these, I don't want to say lies, that's maybe a strong word, but at least men will believe these ideas that turn out not to be true. Or they're made for women to fantasize. Women like to fantasize about that kind of love, but they don't actually want it in reality. They don't want it in real life. Because, again, if the guy is not actually bringing something to the woman's life, then the woman won't want to be with him. Now, I thought that this song was written by a man. Typically, when you have songs like this, it's because it was written by a man, and men think this idea of just being together is so romantic. Apparently, Thank You was actually written by Dido herself, not by a man. But guess what? After that song was recorded, when Dido had her big popular breakthrough and became a big famous star, she broke up with her fiancé, whom she'd been together with for 12 years. So this guy, she'd been in a relationship with him for 12 years. She'd said yes, meaning he'd asked her to marry him, and she said yes, so they were engaged to be married. When her song broke big, the next year, she broke up with that guy. So it's like, thank you, honey, for thank you for being with me, for making this the best day of my life just by being with me, just being with you. Oh, and by the way, I'm breaking up with you now because I'm a big singing star and I can do better. I'm being very cynical about that. I don't know what really happened with Dido. I mean, maybe she had other reasons for breaking up with the guy, but that's certainly how it seems to be. It seems like she stated in the song that just being with you makes my life meaningful, and then next year she broke up with the guy after 12 years because she found greater success and probably realized that she could attain more ambitious goals. I don't know. My first wife, when we were still married, she once accused me of considering her a starter wife, basically meaning that she's okay for now. She's good for now, but I'll bail out as soon as I find something better, which is such a hurtful and horrible thing to say to your spouse. Really, really a very cruel thing to say to your partner. And it wasn't true at all. I intended to stay with her. And in fact, she was the one who wanted the divorce. Again, I don't leave my partners, they leave me. She was the one who asked for the divorce. I did not intend to divorce her. So this is what women do. They'll complain that they're dissatisfied. They'll accuse you of wanting to leave them, and then they'll leave. They'll say, you want to leave me, right? You're just waiting for a chance to find some better woman and ditch me. So I'm going to leave for that reason. No. I intended to stay with her, and that's the truth. She's the one who got this idea that I was planning to leave her, and she left, before I had a chance to leave her. I guess it was like, I don't know. I don't understand. I still don't understand it to this day, and this was like a long time ago. So, if you're a guy who has those typical sort of guy qualities, if you're attractive, good-looking, whatever, you'll find it easy to attract women for short periods of time. You'll get lucky in the sense that you'll get a lot of women who are interested in you, but that interest won't last long. And that's why I don't think it's really love. As I said, I think that love is probably better defined by the duration rather than by the intensity of the feeling. Because you can feel something for a short period of time, but if that love doesn't transpire, if it doesn't endure over a longer period of time, I would be so bold as to say it wasn't really love. That wasn't true love. And again, that's why I say I don't think that women really love men, because true love never ends. And if a person just falls out of love after a while, then I don't think it was really love to begin with. I don't think that women really fall in love. And I know a lot of women will say, that's not true. I've fallen in love. Yeah, but how long were you in love? One last thing, which I'll throw in just because I think this is interesting. This idea that women are attracted to intelligence. A lot of women say they're attracted to intelligence. They want a smart guy. That is also not true. And again, this is not just my opinion. This is not just my personal sentiment. This is backed up with studies and statistics. They did studies where they categorized men based on IQ. Intelligence is somewhat measurable. You can't really measure it absolutely, but intelligence is somewhat measurable. There are IQ tests which you can use to put a number on a person's intelligence, kind of objectively rate a person's intelligence. So they rated men based on intelligence, and they did tests to see how attractive these men were to women based on their intelligence. And the results were, intelligence makes almost zero difference in how attractive a man is to a woman, except at the very top. The only difference they saw was in very intelligent men. At the very top, like genius level, top 5 percentile genius men who had really very high IQs, those men were actually slightly less attractive to women than other men. And outside of that bracket, outside of the really like very top genius, super genius guys, intelligence had no correlation with, there was no correlation between intelligence and attractiveness to women. So the idea that women want intelligent men is not true. Now, when women say that they want an intelligent guy, what they mean is they want a guy who seems intelligent. And the way that a guy seems intelligent is by saying funny and or interesting things. Women like a guy who can make good conversation. They like a guy who has a sense of humor and can make funny jokes, a guy who can make them laugh. That's what's attractive to women. And so when women say they want an intelligent guy, they're mistaking intelligence with, sense of humor, the ability to be funny. Yes, you need to be kind of clever to make funny jokes, but that's not quite intelligence. I mean, again, what's intelligence? Now we need to define the word intelligence. Intelligence is what enables people to do things like math and science and other stuff like that. It's not really what attracts women. Take any woman, almost any woman, and talk to her about computer programming, for example. Talk to her about the technicalities of writing software in Java or some other programming language like that. She will be bored to tears. That's intelligent. It requires intelligence to understand that stuff and talk about that stuff. It is not something that interests women. When women say that they want an intelligent guy, what they mean is they want a charismatic guy, a charming guy, a funny guy, a talkative, social kind of guy who, will say funny and interesting things at parties and at gatherings and conversations. That's what women mean when they say they want an intelligent guy. So intelligence is not really what women want. They want a guy who's witty and charming and funny. But that's not intelligence. That's being witty and charming and charismatic. Women want a charismatic guy. Women want charisma. They don't want intelligence. Intelligence is okay. Like it's not, I guess it's not bad, but they're just, women are indifferent to intelligence. They don't really care about intelligence. They just want the guy to be funny and charismatic. That's what they want. They want the guy to be charming. So, think about, I think a good example is think about Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. By the way, I am often compared to Sheldon. A lot of people say that I am like Sheldon. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's true. Okay. But anyway, how many women think that Sheldon is their dream man? How many women are seriously attracted to Sheldon? He's socially inept. He's like autistic. Yes, he's very smart. But how attractive is that really? How many women would seriously want to marry Sheldon or be with him? I guess he had some love interest in the show, whatever. I don't know. I don't watch television. So, but okay, on the show there was a woman who was interested in him, but a lot of people like Sheldon because he's funny. Yeah, he's a funny character, but he's like a clown. He's someone to laugh at. He's not someone who's sexually or romantically attractive to women. People like him because he's funny, but intelligence is not really what women want. So when women say they want an intelligent guy, what's actually happening is those women are misunderstanding what intelligence is. What they want is the perception of intelligence, and the perception of intelligence comes again from being talkative and funny. So now you know, and again, that's not just my personal opinion or experience. It's backed up by research. That's actually what research has found, statistics have found. So when a woman says that she wants an intelligent guy, it's probably not true. And again, I'm not saying that those women are lying. I don't want to call it a lie because they probably perceive these funny, witty, charming guys as being intelligent. They perceive that as intelligence. So they're being honest because they don't know what intelligence is. But when a woman says that she wants an intelligent guy, that's probably not true. And if a woman perceives a guy as intelligent, that's probably also not true. And in fact, I would posit, this is also more my opinion, it's not necessarily always a fact, but I would posit that a really intelligent person usually doesn't talk very much. A really intelligent person listens and watches a lot, but they don't usually talk very much. So they tend to spend most of their time thinking, and they'll often spend a lot of time sitting alone with their thoughts, just thinking about what they've learned and what they know, and trying to come to some conclusion with it. And that's boring to women. That bores women to death. Just to sit with a guy while he's thinking, that will bore a woman to tears. That is not what a woman wants. That is not attractive to women. I did once meet a woman like that. I once met a woman who said she does nothing with her life When I asked her what she does in her free time, she said, I don't really do anything. I just kind of lie down and think about things. I fell in love with that woman very hard because I saw that she had kind of the same thing that I have. She had a similar sort of personality or spirit that I have, and I thought, finally, this is a woman that I can really share my life with. That I can really, maybe it will really work out with this one, because this is really like the way she described her life, at least, assuming she was being honest and not just joking or being whatever. I thought this is really a woman whom I can really share my life with, and we can really do the same things together. But she didn't love me back, and I don't think she loved anyone, because the thing about those women is they don't really want men. If a woman is very introverted like that, if she doesn't really have a very active life, if she just likes staying at home and living, having a very simple and quiet life at home, not really doing anything special, then she probably will not want any man in her life at all, because she would probably rather just live alone. She'd probably be happiest just in solitude, just living alone. And if you're that kind of guy who also prefers to stay at home and prefers a quiet life at home like that, you might find a woman like that someday. But the thing is, she probably won't love you back. Because again, women don't really need a man in their lives for something like that, just to sit at home. If you're looking for a woman like that, you might hope that you find one someday. But I hope for your sake that you don't find a woman like that, because if you do, she won't love you back. And that is the worst feeling in the world. I'm done.